stages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, A journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Mevorach. How are you guys?
I'm a little tired. All that
Aw,
resting.
yeah, Shabbat.
Yeah, I mustn't be doing it wrong.
Well, I guess it's your luck. So today we're going to be learning about the basic framework of keeping Shabbat.
Ah,
Kudos to Heather, and I don't know if any other little bird had something to do with that, but excellent idea, continuing from last week's. So let's jump right into it. Oh, we're all on camera. Baruchim habayim. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Mr. Victor,
and
let's have you read the first phrase in the
there we go.
beginning prayer for guidance to keep our priorities straight.
All right. Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha Adonai Elohai.
Let's translate it. Yehis, may it be.
I tell you, I have not worked on that very much. Let's see. May it be
Chon is will
Ratzon.
or desire. And so may it be the desire milfanecha, from before you. O eternal Elohai, my God, the powerful authority over me. Bo namshich, let's continue.
Shelo Akashel Bidvar Halacha.
That not shall I stumble in a matter of halacha, practical implementation of Torah law, practical implementation of keeping Torah by the consensus of our sages. Devar, would you like to read the next line?
I'll give it a try.
B'chavod, kol hakavod.
Shalom. Omar. Al Sameh.
Looks like it, but if you see a little break, it's a tet.
Tameh.
There you go.
Tahor.
Beautiful. So
right?
yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So that brings up the point that we should keep in mind when reading Hebrew. Some of the letters look a little bit similar. So for example, the tet in certain fonts looks very similar to a samech, but samech will never ever have a little break here. And tet should always have a little break in the top. So it shouldn't be a complete circle. It should have an opening.
Okay.
All right. Bo'un etargem. Let's translate. Heather, would you like to translate? I'm sorry. Hodaya. Oh my goodness, it's so hard. You
It's
know
okay.
why? You know why? Because I haven't changed your name on everything, so I still see the name Heather pop up. That's what's doing
Right.
it. So I need to change that. Like in chat groups and certain chat boxes.
Right.
Yalla. Shelo Omar.
That I shall not say regarding that which is impure that it is, or that which is pure that it is impure.
All right, let's get Devorah to continue.
That's a vav there, isn't it?
Nachon. That's correct. Nachon.
I'm not sure. Is a va ve
That's right.
al
Beautiful.
tahor tameh.
Mitsuyan. That's it.
Does that have
All right.
anything to do with clean and unclean?
Yes, it does. But those aren't the best translations. A little better would be pure and impure, and there's even better translations than that, but that are not common, and I don't want to go on a tangent. But so let's stick with pure and impure. That's how it's normally translated, other than in the Christian world. In the Jewish world, they don't usually do clean and unclean. And it's really kind of misleading to say clean and unclean because it doesn't have anything to do with actual cleanliness. All right, wa'al. Let's go ahead and translate. Wa'al. Al is a common preposition. So it means on, about, or regarding. It can mean over as well, like over something. But usually it means on, and it can also mean about or regarding.
About that which is pure, that is impure?
Exactly. Meaning, as it says earlier, Shelo Omar, that I should not say regarding what is pure, that it's not pure, and that it is just, it's inferred in Hebrew. Hebrew is very concise. All right, and Mr. Victor, B'chavod.
Wa'al mutar asur wa'al asur mutar.
All right, Bona Targem, you got this.
So the and that.
Where's the that?
Well, the all that would be and regarding.
That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to always translate everything word by word to English if it sounds a little more natural with a different word, but we should understand what the words actually mean, especially like if we're teaching or just becoming familiar with the text.
Yeah. The most common thing here would be the vav would be and, like continuing what you just said a minute ago.
Correct.
And that
And in this
is,
case, if we felt some liberty, it would be more natural to say in English or. So sometimes the vav, the and, functionally, by context, makes more sense to be translated as or, but it doesn't literally mean or. There is a Hebrew word that's specific to or. Yalla.
And regarding that which is pure.
What would be tahor over here? Tahor. So this is mutar. Notice tahor is with a qef, the letter qef, and this is a tav. Mutar. Mutar is the opposite of asur. So if you know what asur is, you should be able to figure out what mutar is.
Should be able to.
All right, maze mutar. Anybody know? Maze mutar.
Permitted.
Nachon, mutar. In common English language Jewish texts, you probably might, well, if they're Sephardic, you will hear mutar. But if they're Ashkenazi, which is the majority of English-speaking Jews, you're probably not going to hear mutar. So you might actually recognize this word if we mispronounced it as mutter. It's not mutter. It's not mutter. It's not mutter. Yalla. All right, so mutar. Mutar is permitted. Literally means released or unbound. So
in that which is permitted, that
nor
it
regarding
is
what is permitted, yeah, nor
regarding what is permitted, that it is forbidden.
Right, and how do we say forbidden?
Forbidden.
In Hebrew? Shabbat.
Asur.
Nachon. And like the word mutar, in most English language Jewish content, you're not going to hear the word asur unless it's a Sephardic Jew or an Ashkenazi from Israel or very influenced from Israel. But most Ashkenazi Jews will not say asur, they'll say asr. Asr.
Wow.
And that's part of the problem with the common transliterations, because they're often relying on transliterations, or after learning the transliteration, if they ever get to the point of reading Hebrew letters, they then apply the pronunciation that they first mistakenly learned from the transliteration, and then they apply it onto the Hebrew. So they start getting the ooze as which is really the same as a segol, and a slere is a completely different vowel. Anyway, so asur means bound, restrained, and that's how you say forbidden in Hebrew. All right, well, so nor should we say regarding what is permitted that it's forbidden. But in the same vein, we shouldn't say that something that is forbidden is permitted. Right. They're the same. One is not better. It's not better to forbid what is permitted than to permit what is forbidden. Did I say that wrong? It is not better to permit. It is not better. I got it wrong. It is not better to forbid something that's allowed.
Neither is better.
That's no better to forbid what is allowed than to allow what is forbidden. Okay.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
better. And that's
which one is more commonly done? Which one do people normally do wrong?
I think it depends on the culture or the mentality of the individual. I think it's really dependent on their personality or the personality that's dominant in their communities. In religious communities, I would say it's more common to permit. I'm sorry, it's more common to forbid what's permitted, especially in the Jewish world. But it's not that you have no overlap. There are certainly some very problematic and so even severe violations of Torah that are permitted in parts of the religious world, both Jewish and non-Jewish religious worlds. And you have, go ahead.
I was going to say, so to have a rabbi put extra fences and, well, we don't do it, we're not going to do that here, is calling something that might be permitted that you can't do it because we're going to put extra barriers up.
And that's not inherently problematic. That's not what this is talking about.
Yeah.
What this is saying is we should not think it. We shouldn't, and it's basically saying do not blur the lines, do not change the foundations of Torah. It's not saying that if a community finds it reasonable or voluntarily accepts upon themselves a greater stringency, that they can't accept some fence. It's not saying that. What it's saying is that you should not say that something that is permitted by the Torah or by our sages, you should not say that is forbidden. But you can voluntarily restrain something, either as a community or upon yourself. You can do that. But if you do it, it's only permitted if you maintain the conscious distinction between that voluntary restriction as opposed to what the Torah and the sages actually restricted. You should not confuse those, and that is the problem. There's no prohibition of voluntarily and consciously recognizing that I am forbidding something on myself beyond what is forbidden from the Torah. That's fine. But if you're doing that, that means you're not blurring the lines. You're maintaining the distinction. That's what a vow is. It's not a problem. As long as it's reasonable. You want to be reasonable. All right. Mr. Victor, next phrase.
Sure.
Etan. Do you want to be Yosef or Etan? Or Yosef Etan?
We're gonna have a lot of Yosefs running around, I think. Yosef. Victor's, it would be fine as well, I think.
I'm gonna go with
Etan is nice, yeah.
I'm just gonna call you Eat.
No. That's probably not the right answer.
It's so funny. Or just 10.
Sure.
Yossi.
Yosele.
Yosele, the holy miser.
Yossi Yosele. Yalla.
Wa'al akashel bidvar halacha.
Maze al. What is al?
And regarding.
That would be with an ayin.
Oh, we have an aleph here.
The difference between aleph and ayin is significant in Hebrew, no matter what some uninformed people say. So al with an aleph can be used for saying don't, like a negation, but more often not don't. It's often used as a negation, even like lo, but more often it means like don't. It's not being used as don't here, but just that you know, that's how it's usually used. Al is like saying don't. And it's a
That I
present tense,
not?
right, that I not. And that would not normally be used this way in modern Hebrew, but it does get used in the sense of not in rabbinic Hebrew. So, nor, or may I not. Ekashel. This root kashel means to stumble.
That I not stumble in a matter of halacha.
There you go. Make sure we do a raspy with friction. Ha.
Yeah,
Halacha.
I got spit all over my camera. We're good.
That's all
Okay.
that. All right. Dvorah b'chavod tur shalach. Your turn. B'chavod.
Us.
We have a vav here. Wall.
Wa. Is.
The yud, if a yud has a vowel associated with it, it must be, yes, it must be pronounced as a consonant Y plus the vowel.
Isma. No. Ismehu.
That's it. Well, yismehu.
Ismehu. B. Ha. Ve. Ra. I.
Rai. It's a dip.
Rai.
All right, beautiful. Miss Odaya, titargemi bevakasha.
And my friends shall rejoice with me.
Beautiful. All right, Dvorah, tamshichi.
Wa'al. No. Well, that was the second one. The one that's over there. What is that one? What? It is wa'al.
Nachon. That's right. Nachon. Wa'al.
Ye. Kash. Lo.
Lu.
Lu.
Vav with the dot is always u.
Ikashlu.
Vav with the dot in the middle is always u. Right? Wa'al
Ha.
yikashalu. Wa'al yikashalu.
Chaverai.
Mitsuyan. Excellent. Havirai.
Bid. Mar.
V is in violin. Really, it should be bilabial.
Bidvar. That's got my name in it.
Mm-hmm.
Halacha.
Mitsuyan. Wa'al yikashalu havirai bidvar halacha. Odaya b'chavod titargemi b'vakasha.
And may my friends not stumble in a matter of Jewish law.
Ismah bohem. Ismah bohem. And I shall rejoice in them. So I will read it one more time in English as an actual prayer. May it be your will before us, O eternal, powerful authority over us, that I not stumble in a matter of halacha, not in any point of the practical consensus implementation of your will, that I should not say regarding what is impure that it is pure, nor should I say regarding what is pure that it is not pure, nor should I say regarding what is permitted that is forbidden, nor should I say regarding what is forbidden that it's permitted. And in doing this, I shall not stumble in the implementation of your will, halacha. And my fellows shall rejoice with me. And may they also not stumble in a point of halacha, nor are they likely to do so if I myself am cautious. And I shall rejoice with them. Can you hear, son? May it be his will. Hey.
Amen.
53 or 52? I think it's 53. I think you said. Yeah.
Yes, 53.
Beautiful. All right. Mihaba bator.
Any hava'a.
B'chavod.
To appear before God in the temple on the festivals, as Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16 states, on 3 occasions during the year, all your males shall appear.
All right, and the word they translate as festivals here does not mean festivals. This is pilgrimages. Regalim are very specifically pilgrimages from the Hebrew word regel, which means legs or feet. So, yeah, we do have more than 3 festivals, but only 3 of those festivals are pilgrimages. Right, so what we learned today is that Hajj is a pillar of Torah Judaism. If you want to be next, say Tor Sheli. Sheli means mine. Tor Sheli.
Tor Sheli. 54.
Yes,
To
sir.
rejoice on the festivals, as Deuteronomy 16:14 states, and you shall rejoice on your festivals.
And go ahead and say Mi Haba Bator. Who is next in line? Mi Haba Bator.
Mi haba batur.
Something Shaylee.
All right,
don't
Tor.
remember.
Tor means turn. Tor
Tor.
means turn. Yeah.
Tor Shaylee. To slaughter the paschal lamb, as Exodus 12:6 states, and the entire congregation shall slaughter it.
And let it be known that all the so-called, mockeries of peace activists and pro-indigenous activists, every time they side on the side of Jew-hating pseudo-indigenous terrorists, the Palestinian establishment, by opposing the Jewish people from slaughtering the Passover lamb, what they are doing is oppressing an indigenous population in the land of Israel and forbidding them from maintaining their ancient ancestral observance, indigenous observance of the land of Israel. The Passover offering is and should be framed in the current political climate for what it actually is, which is the indigenous practice of the indigenous nation of the land of Israel, that is the Jewish people. And prohibiting them from doing so is oppression of an indigenous people. We have to know how to frame things in language that resonates with the people who need to hear it. And it's also a forbidding of the Jewish people and only the Jewish people. It's an isolating of the Jewish people. It's a specific discrimination targeted against the Jewish people, prohibiting them and only them from engaging in their freedom of religion, despite nobody needing to get hurt in order for us to do this. The fact that some Jew haters may try to start a war if we do it doesn't mean that we are causing people to be hurt. No, we're not responsible for the actions of wicked people who act violently because they're offended by our existence. That is no different than blaming a woman for being raped because she happened to be walking down a street and she's a woman. That's how you have to frame it to the virtuous bigots of our generation. All right, sorry for that little spiel. Can't stand those idiots. Let's keep going. Nothing worse than than a bigot who views themselves as righteous. It's disgusting. Arrogance.
Ani haba'a batur.
B'chavod. Let's brighten it up with Hodaya.
To eat the meat of the paschal sacrifice roasted on the night of the 15th of Nisan, as Exodus chapter 12, verse 8 states, and they shall eat the meat.
Right? Who is next in line? Mi haba bator. Go ahead. Let's say mi.
Ani baha bator.
Haba'a. Haba'a.
Haba'a
Bator.
bator.
You got it. One more time. Say it one more time. Practice makes perfect.
Haba'a bator.
There you go.
To offer the second paschal sacrifice, as Numbers 9:11 states, in the second month, on the 14th of the month.
Beautiful. A few people realize that there are actually 2 Passovers. All right. To eat the meat of the second Paschal offering together with masloth, that is unleavened bread, and bitter herbs, as Numbers chapter 11 states, and you shall eat it with masloth and bitter herbs. Mi haba bator,
Ani haba batur.
yefeh, b'chavod.
To sound the trumpets when the sacrifices are offered and in times of difficulty, as Numbers 10:10 states, and you shall sound the trumpets.
Right. Who's next in line? Go ahead and say it. Mi haba bator.
Mi haba'a batur.
Oh, you're just excluding the males. I get it.
Well, I think you and I just went, so.
How presumptuous.
Ani haba batur.
B'chavod.
For all animals to be sacrificed after their 8th day of life, as Leviticus chapter 22, verse 27 states, and on the 8th day and afterwards.
Okay, we could read this in completely different ways. You could read it as for all animals to be sacrificed, meaning all animals that exist should be sacrificed after their 8th. There would be no other animals on earth if we did that. Or you could read it as all animals that are to be sacrificed, with a that are inserted here. So it's a good example of how if we don't look at the original language, translations, even well-intended translations, can be very misleading. Of course,
why are
Go
we
ahead.
not slaughtering a lamb when it's 2 days old? Do we know?
I mean, I can't give an authoritative answer.
It's interesting. 8th day, and that would be a lamb in its first year. So a 1-year-old lamb is 8 days and older.
Okay.
That would be so a 3-year-old red heifer is 2 years old and 8 days. It's now a 3-year-old heifer. It has to be
Yes.
2 years, 8 days.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Mi haba bator.
Ani haba bator.
Fair. You got the feminine down.
For all animal offerings to be unblemished, as Leviticus 22:21 states, when it is unblemished, it will be desirable.
Go ahead and ask who is next in line. Me.
Mi haba bator.
There you go. Haba with a he. Mi haba bator. In modern Hebrew, most of the younger people don't pronounce the letter he. So if you said mi haba bator without the he, it becomes mi abba bator, and it sounds like you're saying, who's the father in line? Mi abba, who's the father? Mi abba bator. Yalla.
Am I up
Me.
again?
Are you abba?
I am Abba.
Yalla.
Okay. 62, to salt all the sacrifices. I sure wish it said offerings. To salt all the offerings, as Leviticus 2:13 states, offer salt on all your offerings.
Right. How do you say who's next?
Mi haba'a batur.
Go again.
Yeah, I think I'm going again.
We need a female to respond.
Ani haba. The burnt offerings, as Leviticus chapter 1, verse 3 states, if his is a burnt offering. Interesting that it translated it as offerings this time instead of sacrifices.
Yep, despite it being the same exact word. Go ahead. How did you say? Who is it?
Shel mi hatur?
Yes, very good. Oh, kol hakavod. That's when you know you're making progress, when you can mix it around like that. Shel mi hator. Shel mi hator. Whose turn is it? And the is it is inferred. That's beautiful. Shel mi hator.
I cheated
Unlike,
and looked at my notes.
oh, it's okay. It's still good. But the word me is one of the only two, if you could say two, words in Hebrew that is a noun, which is gender neutral and number neutral. So me can refer to several or one, and it can be male or female. No other words in Hebrew are like that unless you consider the word asher. But asher is not strictly a noun. Yalla. Mi haba bator, shall mi hator, shall mi hator haba. Who's the next turn? Shall mi hator haba. Whose next turn is it?
Ani ha'aba.
Yes,
Bator.
ani haba bator. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say something for anybody watching.
Yeah.
I know almost none of these words. I can pronounce the letters, but I don't know what most of these words mean. So don't be discouraged and think we students are well practiced. We are not. We are learning from scratch.
Thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right. But as you're showing, you don't have to know everything to start practicing and
Yeah.
using the words in any language, not just Hebrew. Using the words as soon as you can is the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Together with music, but singing, but also use it as much as you can, even if it's not fluent, but just a phrase here and there incorporate into your speech. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to say once again, I know almost none of the meanings of these words. I am practically brand new. I've had a little bit of Hebrew training to pronounce letters, and that is it.
But if
I
I say,
know a couple of words just from hearing it over and over again. That's it.
but now from today, if I say mi haba, you have an idea what it means, even if you don't know what every detail of it means. You have an idea of what we're saying. Yes.
I'll remember the context for
That's
sure.
that's the most important part.
Yeah, I'll remember the context that you're asking who's next.
That's
I
exactly
won't
it.
remember the exact meanings of the
Sure.
words
But that's something.
because it takes
That,
me like 50 times. Seriously.
all the more
All of
reason
us.
we have to practice.
Yeah.
All the more reason you got to start practicing as soon as you can.
Yeah.
As soon as you can.
So don't think this class is for well-trained or experienced learners. No, I'm practically brand new. I've only had enough training to pronounce letters. That's it.
Very good. כל הכבוד. יאללה, בואו
Okay.
נמשיך. בואו נמשיך. בואו נמשיך.
And kol kavod means
Thank you. I don't
So
know.
again, you got the context. It's something positive, and you understand that it's a response to someone doing something,
Yeah.
and you understand that it's positive. That is part of learning the word, and you've
Yeah.
already learned that. Literally, it means all the honor or all the respect, and it is a way of acknowledging gratitude for something. It's not normally translated as thank you, but it is along the lines of thank you. Kol hakavod is like saying good job or all respect. That's a little closer to the literal meaning. Literally, it is all the respect or all the honor. All right. Bo'u namshich.
I
And
forgot
kol
what
hakavod.
number we're on. Number
last one,
64?
65.
65. Okay. The guilt offering, as Leviticus 7:1 states, these are the laws of the guilt offering.
Yalla. All right, let's continue to our topic for the day. Oh,
Yalla, does that mean that she was too loud? What is yalla? She was yelling.
Yalla is not Hebrew. It is well, it is part of modern Hebrew. It's adopted from Arabic. They did not steal it from Arabs because Jews were speaking Arabic. In other words, Arabic was the language of Jewish people before Muslims even existed as an organized religion, before Muhammad was even an afterthought. So remember that when Jew-hating bigots make an issue of Jews in Israel using Arabic. So it's Arabic in origin. Don't confuse Arabic with Islam. Those are related but distinct things. And because the majority of Jews in Israel are not white supremacist invaders from Europe, but rather because the majority of Jews in Israel are brown people of color who have suffered oppression for millennia, first from Islamic supremacists and now from white supremacists who pose as defenders of brown people. Jews, brown Jews being encouraged to be murdered, brown Jews being oppressed and murdered with the support of white supremacists who imagine themselves to be defenders of brown people. But essentially, you're a white supremacist because you view your Eurocentric white culture to be superior and noble in the defending of barbarians, because the Palestinians are too mentally undeveloped to be held accountable for their barbarism. So we got to just placate these barbarians because they can't be held to a higher standard. And we need to encourage them to murder these other people of color, the Jews, because really, although we're peacenik white defenders of justice, really we hate Jews because, you know, they're Jews. Hashtag you're a bigot. Not you, but the white saviors. There is a concept of white saviorism, and they're not usually conservative Republicans. They're usually people who had hardly no non-white friends growing up. And they also tend to be the people who assume that white people in the southern US are all racist. They assume that because they are racist more times than not. I don't mean racist in an extremist, exterminate everybody who's not white, but I mean racist in that they have a lot of assumptions they just assume about people who are not white because they really have very little experience, together with arrogance, unwillingness to learn. That's a problem, but we suffer from that. So the Jews,
bigotry of low expectations.
Exactly, and that is a bigotry. That is a bigotry, and it can lead to murder in this case. So the majority of the Jews of Israel are not white Jews. Not that if they happen to be white, not that that would make them any less legitimate, but they happen to not be white. And they use a lot of Arabic terms sprinkled in their modern Hebrew, specifically because they are not white European invaders, specifically because they've been living in that region, the Middle East, forever. Forever. They never left it. That is the majority of Israeli Jews. I bring it up all the time because it's important to remember, since that is one of the most frequent arguments of the anti-Israel camp, that they're just a bunch of white people who stole the land of poor, innocent, brown Palestinians. They apply to the Middle East their Eurocentric or Western-centric framework that they're familiar with from the comfort of their apartment building in Manhattan. You know, they throw that into the Middle East, which is arrogance, ignorance and arrogance. Stupid, man. So stupid. I'm sorry. People die because of this crap. But that's what Yalla means. Let's keep going. All right. Hodaya, would you like to read for us? First this and then this.
Okay. Shabbat, 4 pillars. Therefore, the people of Israel shall keep the Shabbat, observing the Shabbat throughout their generations as a covenant forever. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel that in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. Exodus chapter.
Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 31, verses 16 through 17.
Yeah, I didn't see some of these little typos in Canva. I think sometimes some words get like pushed over and they don't show up when you have a text highlighted. But then when you click off of it, they appear. But once I've clicked off, I'm not really looking at it. Oh, well. All right. So these are the 4 pillars.
1, remembering. 2, keeping. 3, honoring. And 4, delighting.
And I want everyone to know these are not arbitrary. I didn't just randomly come up with these. These are the four main aspects of keeping Shabbat that are pretty universally recognized in the traditional Jewish world. And the laws of Shabbat, whether it's from the Mishneh Torah or the Shulchan Aruch or any other code of Jewish law, any other texts regarding halachot of Shabbat, the halacha of Shabbat, they pretty much all are going to make mention of these different aspects. Okay, so it's not random, but it's also not like I'm trying to base it on the Bible, but I kind of came up with it myself. I didn't. These are very basic. So let's remember them. Let's say them together. These are the four main categories of keeping Shabbat. Number one, everybody together, remembering. Let's say
Remembering,
Number two, keeping.
keeping,
Number three, honoring.
honoring,
Remembering. Keeping.
Number four, delighting.
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 All right, now we're going to say them in Hebrew. Number one, remembering, zachor. Remembering, zachor. So everybody say zachor.
Zachor.
Okay, so we'll say it one more time, followed by what it means. Zachor, remembering.
Zechor. Remembering.
remembering.
Keeping, shamor. Keeping, shamor. So everybody say shamor.
Shamor.
Shamor,
Right,
Keeping.
we'll say it one more time, followed by what it means. Shamor, keeping.
Shamor.
shamor, keeping.
Keeping.
Right, and really, zachor means remember, and shamor means keep. Honoring, kavod. Everybody say kavod.
Kavod.
All right, and really, kavod means honor or respect. Like we mentioned just a little earlier, kol kavod, all the respect, all the honor. So honoring, what this is frequently referred to as, is with the word kavod. So kavod means honor. So let's say the word kavod, and then we'll say honor. Kavod, honor.
Kavod.
Kavod,
Honor.
honor.
Right? And finally, delighting is oner. Oner. So let's say the word oner.
Oneg.
Öneg,
Beautiful. And we'll say it one more time, and then we'll follow it with the definition, delight. So oner, delight.
Oneg.
öneg,
Delighting.
delight.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's continue. Okay. Devorah, would you like to remember? I'm sorry. Would you like to read this section on the left, and then you will read the first of the points, and then we can get Etan and Hodaya to read the next.
Okay. Zachor. Is it Zachor or Zachor?
It's really a chaf sound. There's no
Chaf?
dot. Yeah, if there's no dot in the chaf, it's chaf. I just didn't get around to putting the special, character with a line under it.
Okay. Zachor. Remembering the Sabbath. Zachor Shabbat.
All right, so Zachor Shabbat means remember Shabbat. You can go ahead and read the first of the bullet points, then Hodaya and Etan.
Shabbat is welcomed like a king through Kiddush and farewelled through Havdalah, marking its sanctity at both entrance and exit.
Hodaya,
This-
b'chavod.
The special Amida prayer sanctifies Shabbat as an extension of Kiddush.
All right, and we want to accent the last syllable of that word, Amidah.
Amida.
All right, so the special Amidah prayer sanctifies Shabbat as an extension of Kiddush. And who can summarize for us what the Amidah prayer is? What is the Amidah prayer?
It's the prayer that's made twice a day, modeled after Hannah.
In some ways, it's modeled after several things, but
Yeah.
that's one of the ways it's modeled after. That's right. In what way is it modeled after Hannah?
In that you barely hear yourself.
Correct. But you
praying,
should hear
hear
yourself.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah, you're kind of whispering.
That's right. That's right.
And it's 18 blessings.
That's what it literally is called. Shemona Esrei is one of the other names for the Amidah. It's also called Shemona Esrei, which means 18, because in its original form, it's 18 blessings. But in the way that it's recited in most communities now, it's 19. However, because it was originally 18, the name stuck. So it's still called the 18 prayer. It's also called Amidah. So what does Amidah mean?
Is it standing?
Yes. So the word Amidah literally is a gerund. It's a noun referring to an action. So it's like the act of standing. That's right. So who can tell us something more about the Amidah prayer? Assume people don't know anything. What is the Amidah prayer? You said we do it twice a day. Is that every day?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the Jewish daily prayer. And does that sound unusual to anybody to say that it's done twice a day? I'm not correcting you because you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but
It
it's
matches
also,
with the old sacrificial system. They did a morning sacrifice and an evening sacrifice.
yes, ma'am. That's right.
But I think you
Afternoon.
can do it 3 times if you want to. You can do it 3 times a day, like
You're
Daniel did.
exactly. So you are very on target. I do want to say that it's the prayer that Jews recite 3 times a day because that is what in practice most seriously observant Jews do. They do pray it 3 times a day. However, that final time, that final time that you pray it is voluntary. It's not treated as if it's voluntary anymore in most of those communities. But if we look at our source texts, it's stated in many places that the third prayer, which is recited in the late evening or at night, it's specified in many places in classical Jewish literature that it's being prayed at that time, at the end of the day, is voluntary, and that it was accepted upon the people of Israel by themselves. They voluntarily accepted that third reciting of the Amidah. But in the root of the matter, at the core of the law of the Amidah prayer, it's only required twice a day, corresponding, as you correctly said, corresponding to the 2 daily offerings. And although Jewish communities usually pray it 3 times a day, and that's a good thing, but it's only good as long as we remember that it's not truly required. The moment that we view the third reciting of it as equal to the 2 recitations of it during the daytime, now we have violated the principle that prohibits adding to the Torah. Our sages never commanded that we recite the Amidah 3 times a day, even though they themselves were probably doing it. But they did not make it an obligation. Why? Because there are not 3 sacrifices made every day in the temple. There are only 2. Only 2. There can be, and probably often was, a something regarding the sacrifices that would extend into the night, but it wasn't its own sacrifice unto itself. It was the burning of whatever was left over from the afternoon offering. All right, so in short, the Amidah prayer is the daily Jewish prayer, and we do it even on holidays, even on Shabbat. But on Shabbat, it's a special form of the Amidah. The middle blessing regards Shabbat. Right? So in that sense, it's an extension of Kiddush, which is sanctifying the Sabbath with words. All right. Mihaba, who would like to read the next? I believe Etan.
These practices keep the memory of creation and divine rest alive in thought and ritual.
All right. So that is Zachor. That is Zachor. What does Zachor mean?
Remember.
Yes, it is the imperative form of remember. It's the command, remember. You'll hear it referred to many times. All right. Hodaya, B'chavod. Let's read the left side, and then you can read the first of the points on the right. We can't hear you. Hello?
She might be frozen.
Okay. How about
Why
you
don't
go
I?
ahead,
Yeah.
Etan? Read the left side and then the first of the points on the right.
Shamor. There's other ways of saying that.
Just read what's on the
Yeah.
left side and we'll discuss it after.
Shamor, keeping the Sabbath. Shamor Shabbat.
All right. So shamor is the same as zachor. They're both the imperative form of the verb, meaning it's a command. Imperative form means it's a command form of the verb. So shamor really means keep. I could have used another form of it, which is more literal to keeping the Sabbath, but I wanted to use shamor because one, it's shorter, but also because it is the command form, how the commandment of keeping Shabbat is actually given. Shamor et Yom HaShabbat. You should keep the Sabbath day. So shamor means keep. In what form? What form of keep is it?
Observe, like the observance.
I'm talking about in the grammar. What form
Oh.
of the word keep is shamor? Is it present tense, past tense? Is it a command? So let's write it down on a piece of paper. Shamor is the command form of keep. It's the command form. It is the form of the word used when the commandment was given. That's why it's the same verb pattern as zachor. If you notice, the vowels are the same. Zachor, shamor. That is the vowel pattern of a verb, which indicates commandment. Zachor, shamor. Devorah, can you summarize in your own words what kind of form of keep is the word shamor?
It is it's a commandment,
Yes, it's the command form of the word
command
keep,
form of Shabbat.
right? So if you say shamor Shabbat, what you're saying is keep Shabbat. Shamor Shabbat, keep Shabbat. If
Is
you
that
say Zachor Shabbat, you're saying remember Shabbat.
is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
where the Shomer Shabbat
Of
Shabbos
course, it's the same.
phrase comes? Shomer Shabbos is what I hear.
That's
Mhm.
right. It's the same root, but
Okay.
Shomer Shabbos it would not be understood by a Hebrew speaker unless they are already familiar with how English-speaking Jews mispronounce Hebrew. If you said that in the middle of speaking modern Hebrew, you would not be understood. They know you're saying something about Shabbat, and they know that the root has something to keeping, but they won't really know what you're saying because Shomer Shabbat doesn't match any verb form in Hebrew. It's a mispronunciation of shomer. In short, if you see a Hebrew word that ends with an R, it's never going to end with an It's going to be not All right, so shomer Shabbat is not actually a verb. It's a adjectival noun. That means, and that's a type of word we don't really have in English. But what it means is that it's technically a noun, shomer Shabbat. It's more about a person than specifically the action. So shomer Shabbat is a person who keeps Shabbat. It is a keeper of Shabbat. So you can say, I am shomer Shabbat.
Mhm.
All right. In
Yeah.
Hebrew, there is no present tense. So this kind of a word, what's called an adjectival noun, is a descriptive type, a very descriptive type noun. It is what's usually used in lieu of a present tense, in place of a present tense. But technically, grammatically, it's not a verb. And that's important to remember for reasons we're not going to get into at the moment. It's important to remember. But remember that also with the term I am and arguments that Trinitarians make with the verb am in the words of Jesus. Remember this in relation to that. It basically means that all of that proof that Jesus is claiming to be God, only works if a person is oblivious to Hebrew grammar. There is no I am in Hebrew. There's no I am. It's just I. Anyway, it's a different topic.
Can I ask a question?
I suppose since you already did. Chutzpah. Yallah.
That's one, I guess. That was it.
All right, let's keep going.
No, so Devorah brings up that she's heard, Shomer Shabbos, or you Shomer
Yes.
Shabbos, and I agree. It's the same here. Meet a rabbi, and practically the first question is, "Are you Shomer Shabbos?" With usually it's in relation to, "Are you going to travel here on Shabbat?" And then they're like, "Well, no, I'm going to walk in." They're like, "Oh, you're Shomer Shabbos?"
What they're really saying is, you are one who keeps Shabbat. You are a person who keeps Shabbat.
Why is that one more important than remember, one of the other four pillars? Why is that the one that they focus on? Because that's the one I usually hear. Curious.
In colloquial speech, keeping Shabbat includes all four of the pillars that I'm discussing right now. There are four pillars of keeping Shabbat. There's remembering, there's keeping, there is to honor and to delight. In colloquial speech, they all fall under keeping Shabbat. But in halakha, when you're getting more into the nitty-gritty, they're categorized as four different categories. And they should be. We shouldn't hold ourselves to a low standard. We should understand these differences. Most rabbis who will kind of, colloquially speaking, meaning in everyday speech, will kind of consider all of them part and parcel with keeping Shabbat. But most of those same rabbis who do that, they're aware of this difference. It's not that they don't know. I'm not saying that they're ignoramuses because they use the term Shomer Shabbat. What they're doing is they're just speaking the language of everyday people. And you have to do that to some extent. Otherwise, like when you're communicating with a random stranger, are you going to give them a whole lecture on the four different aspects? No, of course not. So it's just the way that people speak. But we should know that just because people speak a certain way doesn't mean that it encapsulates all the nuance of a certain topic, whatever the topic be. Right? We have to dumb things down in any topic, in any field, right? I mean, if you're going to talk to me about what do they call it? Animal husbandry? Is that such an expression? Animal husbandry or something like that? You don't want to use all the specifics, all the jargon of animal husbandry with me because I'm not an expert in that. You gotta speak in terms I can relate to, right? So that's the deal. But in the context of halakha, Shemirat Shabbat is the category of especially of the malachot. But yes, and literally it does include everything, and also colloquially, usually people mean everything regarding Shabbat, everything. But in the context of trying to divide Torah observance or the commandment of Shabbat into major categories, it's a heading for the malachot, and that's what we're going to look at now. So, Hodaya, are you with us?
I think so.
Okay. So in short, we're now looking at the second of the four major pillars of Shabbat, and that is keeping Shabbat. Excuse me. And we learned that the word shamor is the commandment form of keep. So shamor Shabbat means to keep Shabbat. You also have the expression shomer Shabbat. But shomer Shabbat isn't the commandment form of keep. Shomer Shabbat just means one who keeps. Right? So shomer Shabbat means keep, a person who keeps Shabbat, whereas shamor Shabbat is the commandment form. Keep Shabbat, thou shalt keep, basically. All right, let's get you to read the first of the points, and then Devorah can read the next, and back and forth. B'chavod.
This dimension centers on refraining from creative labor, melacha, as defined by the sages.
Violations require craftsmanship done in the normal, enduring way, acts showing human mastery rather than divine imitation.
I'm not sure about this last little line. If you guys haven't already noticed, basically what I did was I wrote a whole bunch of stuff and then got ChatGPT to make it more terse because I'm very wordy. But sometimes it just takes it upon itself to add its own words, and that's unnecessary. So violations require the sort of violations of the malachot, of the forbidden actions on Shabbat. It requires not just that you're doing something similar to a forbidden action. In order for it to be a technical violation that would incur a penalty under Torah law, the act must be done in the normal way that it's done. And typically, it also needs to be done in a way that shows enough mastery over the action that it is an enduring effect. So, can one of you guys give an example of this?
I have a garden.
Okay.
So if I go water my plants, then I've given them health to grow, which
Yes.
we want to do, but we can skip a day.
Yes, absolutely. So that is one of the malachot, is it's gardening, and therefore watering your plants falls under that. What if I intend to water my plants, but I have no idea what I'm doing? So I'm actually watering them with grape juice, or maybe that might actually have a positive effect. But let's say I'm actually watering them with something that I thought's maybe going to help my plants, but it really won't. And it's not what is typically used to water plants. Here, you would have a legitimate question as to whether you actually violated it, even though you intended to do something forbidden, but you're not doing it in the normal way, may even be detrimental. So it could be that although you intended to violate, you didn't actually.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I have compost right next to the garden,
Yeah,
and I want to put scraps from
excellent question.
maybe I've already finished the work and we've eaten, and now I want to take the scraps and throw them in the compost.
Yes,
Is that giving benefit to the garden?
I think that you should not do that. I haven't researched that specific question, although that same question came up in my own mind recently. It's not,
Yeah.
normally I don't do anything regarding anything concerning gardening on Shabbat, other than walking through it and looking at it, because I get pleasure out of that. I enjoy it. And that is part of Shabbat, to enjoy Shabbat. We're going to get to that soon. But I'm not actually affecting anything when I just walk through. That's permitted. But as far as the composting, to keep it simple. Anytime you have a doubt regarding violation of a Torah commandment, what should you do as opposed to rabbinic commandments?
Torah commandment, you should not do it.
Even if maybe the act, hypothetically, maybe is permitted. But we're asking if you're unsure.
Yeah.
If you're unsure regarding a Torah commandment, err on the side of caution.
So if I don't want to attract bugs from the leftover scraps in my kitchen, what I could do is just put them in a bowl on the balcony.
Yeah, it's not that you can't do anything. You can do something with it,
Yeah.
but don't do it in the way you would normally do on a regular day.
Yeah. I'm just
Right.
showing that example because I live in the country and I'd have to deal with bugs in the kitchen.
Of course.
I don't have a normal house. I have a 100-year-old house. So
Wow. Awesome.
it's a very
That's a
unique.
practical question.
Yeah, it's very practical for me. I
Another
can't
example.
leave things sitting out.
Another example, which is one of the first that people will learn in yeshiva, regarding this distinction of malachot, of forbidden labor, forbidden activity, craftsmanship on Shabbat. And I think craftsmanship is a better term to use for malacha than labor, because then people are like, oh, it doesn't feel laborious to me. I'm going to do it.
It's fun.
I enjoy it. Yeah, it's not labor. There's a different Hebrew word that's specifically for laborious work, and it's not the word malacha. It's the word amal. Amal means labor. It's toil. We say that in the final prayer that we say at the end of our every week. We say it at the end of our weekly Mishnah walk class. And so in that blessing we have Ani amel v'hem amelim. That's the word labor, toil. That is a different word from malacha. So a common probably it's one of the most common examples that people first learn regarding malacha, the forbidden activity on Shabbat. That is knots. People who have the privilege of living in developed Western metropolises might never think of a knot as being craftsmanship or in any way related to work. But if you don't live in that privileged bubble of modern Western society, you would know that making knots is a craftsmanship if you're doing it in a professional way. But you're not likely to think about knots as a sort of profession if you're, in normative Western metropolises. So knots is one of the 39 malachot. What kind of knot? Can I not tie my shoes? Of course you can tie your shoes on Shabbat. Nobody says you can't tie your shoes on Shabbat. But why is it permitted? It would be forbidden to tie your shoes on Shabbat if you're tying them in a professional way, meaning with a professional knot. And there are different types of professional knots for different purposes. So if you tied your shoes with a professional knot, and that knot is not only professional, but it's a certain type of professional knot that endures, that is not likely to undo itself within a day or so of walking, then you would be violating Shabbat. But if you tie your shoes in the normal way with a regular, unprofessional, unpermanent, non-permanent knot, is completely permitted.
So
Right.
Often shoes will come, loose after 3 or 4 hours. So
Right.
people double knot it. I've heard people say
Yes.
you shouldn't double knot it because that's
So there does
not going to
become
come
a
loose.
question about that, because a double knot might not be professional, but it's certainly more enduring. So it's not for sure that you're violating it, but you're starting to get in the gray area. And what do we do? As opposed to rabbinic law, when you have doubts, what do? You got a doubt regarding a Torah law, you're going to be strict.
Right.
That's right. All right, both of them.
So
Yes,
another example, I've also heard, maybe you can explain this a little bit, that doing it, like, as you said, in the normal way or in the way that you would normally do it. I always grab my hose in my right hand and I water everything, and I never use my left hand because I have more strength and control with my right hand. So or I never use a bucket, that kind of thing, or
So
to water.
doing a forbidden labor on Shabbat in a way that is not normally done, it's still forbidden, but that's regarded as forbidden from the sages. So if you tucked the water hose under your neck and went around like this, or under your,
Tied it to the dog.
you
Yeah.
you wouldn't be liable for the death penalty, if assuming we had a halachic government in the land of Israel, but we don't.
No.
But if we did, you wouldn't be liable for the death penalty if you did that. But you would be in violation of Torah because you are violating the instructions of our sages. That doesn't come with a death penalty if you're a regular Joe, right? But that's still forbidden. Okay. However, our sages made that distinction, as they should have. Otherwise, they themselves would have been violating Torah. They'd be adding to Torah. Torah is only forbidding craftsmanship in the manner that is normally done. And usually, I can't recall if there's an exception, but usually it has to have a permanent. Oh yeah, well, gardening is an example of an exception. Because you could do something in gardening in the proper way, and it may not necessarily have a permanent effect because there are different variables in gardening. I could plant a seed and it not work because I didn't take care to amend the soil properly or whatever. But what was I getting at? I don't remember where I
Like
was.
plowing, you can't plow, but if, like, say I have a bench and I'm moving it over and it digs a trench as I'm grabbing this heavy
You're not
thing, I just
liable.
plowed.
You're not
Right.
but you didn't plow in the way that's forbidden by the Torah. That's not
And it
considered
wasn't my intention either, I was just moving
correct.
something.
But that doesn't mean you should intentionally do it, even though you wouldn't be you wouldn't be liable for doing it. You still shouldn't intentionally do it. That abnormal way of doing forbidden activity is forbidden on Shabbat by the words of our sages, not by
Yeah.
explicit command in the Torah.
Now, you also mentioned you enjoy walking through your garden,
Hold on
seeing
a second.
things.
I'm trying to not lose the thought that I wanted to give.
Yep, in that case.
1 second. Okay, before you go to that, our sages also distinguish between doing one of these 39 crafts in an abnormal way, not only to say that if you do it, you won't incur the death penalty, because you're not technically violating the Torah, but also to say that although we, the sages, forbade it as offense, we also permit it. So you are permitted to do any of the 39 categories in an abnormal way if there is a need to do it in order to do a mitzvah. If there's any sort of real hardship on Shabbat or discomfort. In those cases, if doing something related to the 39 categories of forbidden activity, if doing it in an abnormal way would allow you to either keep a mitzvah that you should be doing or would prevent undue hardship on Shabbat, then they permitted doing it in the abnormal way. They did not permit it as a norm, but they permitted it for exceptions to the rule. And that's not saying that you can violate Shabbat, because remember, it's not a violation of Shabbat from the Torah. The same rabbis who prohibited something as offense are the same rabbis who have the permission to permit it for other reasons, if those reasons are justified. And they considered it justified to violate the general rule, the fence, if it's necessary to violate their general fence in order to do a Torah commandment or to prevent hardship.
I have a
That's
question.
Yes, ma'am.
In
Don't
my
forget
garden.
your question.
Oh,
don't
I'm
forget
sorry.
don't
I can
forget your-
wait. I can go second.
Let's
Go ahead.
let's get Etan to go ahead.
So walking through the garden, admiring things, looking at leaves, touching them possibly and things. You have the
Don't touch the
potential
roses.
of, well, you have the potential of harvesting or something like right now, my tomatoes are falling off of
Yes.
everything. But if looking at them wrong, if I brush up against them, they're coming off, which is harvesting fruit, so there's a danger of just not like picking a flower without thinking that I wasn't supposed to do that.
I forget it was Shabbat, yeah.
And so like to be a little more cautious, even approaching things that you know how to do it correctly, but you may mess up.
That's not prohibited on Shabbat. And we cannot and should not say that's prohibited on Shabbat. You should be careful.
Harvesting? Or are you talking about
harvesting is absolutely forbidden on Shabbat.
Yeah.
But you specified there that you may not intend, you might brush up against something and something would fall. It's not forbidden to go into a garden or it is not forbidden to be near a fruit tree, even if there's a chance that you could accidentally brush up against it and accidentally cause something to fall. It's not prohibited, not from the Torah and not from the sages of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It can be prohibited on a community level if they maintain that knowledge that it's not technically forbidden from the Torah or from the sages. But as a community, we see that this is a common occurrence. And some people we suspect are doing it intentionally, but making it look like it's an accident. If that kind of thing happens, a community could prohibit it as a community measure. They cannot say this is forbidden from the Great Sanhedrin to be near a fruit tree because it might happen accidentally. You can't do that. But if you see that you yourself, it's a recurring problem that you have, then you can take it upon yourself to not even draw near to the fruit tree. But there is no such broad prohibition on the entire people of Israel, and we should not claim that it would be, that it is. There are all kinds of things that for one person something might be tempting, but for another person it would never enter their mind to be tempted to do it. There are other things that they may not be tempted to do, but because of some malidity like a limp or lack of balance, they may be likely to cause something to happen that for most people would never happen. And that's why there is room in the Torah for personal fences, personal vows and other things. But we should not apply what may make sense for us onto everybody else and then judge them for violating our personal standards. Right? There is place in the Torah and in reason for different standards based on different factors in different scenarios and with different people. Just as there's a place for general rules and universal laws, there's a place for both. But we shouldn't fool ourselves or impose upon others the an erasing of the distinctions of these different things. All right. Did you have another question, Deborah?
Yes. Let's say I'm the watering question. Let's say
Mhm.
I've been out of town to help with a sick relative, come back just in time for Shabbat, and I look at my garden and things are dying. Can I restore life to them with some
If
water in an unusual way?
if Shabbat has not already started, then you can do things that will see to it being irrigated before Shabbat begins. If it is already Shabbat and you're going to have a massive loss and you're going to be depressed the whole Shabbat as well. But more importantly, there's a massive loss that could actually cause you financial harm and jeopardize your well-being or your family's well-being. Even though it's already Shabbat, you can tell a non-Jew or a child to do XYZ. Normally, we're not supposed to just say, oh, I'll tell a non-Jew to do this for me. There's no general permission to do that. But if there will be some kind of a hardship, you can.
Okay.
And the non-Jew is not your servant, so it does not violate the prohibition in the Ten Commandments. There is a prohibition in the Ten Commandments not to tell your servants to do malacha on Shabbat. They're not your servant. There's also a prohibition to tell the ger, the immigrant in your gates, to do something on Shabbat, but a regular non-Jew is not the immigrant in your gates. Right? These are distinctions that really, if you think about them in these different scenarios, it's refreshing to know that our sages clearly defined what these things are. Right?
So my
that's that.
daughter who lives here, I can't ask her to go water the garden.
Is she Jewish?
No.
Th-
No, I'm the
then
only
you-
one in the
then
family.
you can ask her to water the garden if not doing so will cause you to be preoccupied about it all Shabbat and you'll be depressed about it and you will have a serious loss. Then you can tell her to do it. If she's not part of if she is not in the covenant, she's not sinning by doing that. We're not drawing her closer, but you're not making her sin. It's not a sin unless a person took it upon themselves before God. And it's not legally culpable unless they took it upon themselves in front of a Beit Din, court of three representatives of the Jewish people. So if somebody did not do that, they're not culpable, neither by the law of Israel nor by God's providence if they break Shabbat. There's no commandment for the nations to keep Shabbat unless they enter the covenant, which is a great thing if they do. But God's not holding them to that. They're not being held legally culpable for not entering the covenant in God's mercy.
Okay, so this daughter does observe Shabbat
In what way?
as a no-hide.
Okay, in what way is she observing Shabbat? Has she accepted upon herself all the stringencies of Shabbat? Or is she just commemorating the act of creation in some way? Because those are two different things.
I'm not sure precisely, but I do know she does not do employment on
Okay.
Shabbat.
Okay.
She
Do
takes
you
it, she
think
does delight. She does things she enjoys.
do you think that she thinks it's the right thing to do, but she's only doing it with Shabbat and she hasn't done it with the entire Torah? Or do you think she intends to keep all of Torah and she's just not very educated? By Torah, I mean the full will of God to the extent that we could humanly know about, as God commanded in the Torah. Some
As
people,
much as she knows Torah, she does follow it.
so she wants to.
She wants to,
So
as much as she knows.
most rabbis would not agree with me on this, but I think that like Abraham, even though the entire Torah had not been given during Abraham's time, but our sages said he kept the entire Torah. In what way? He kept the entire Torah because he was in covenant relationship with God in the sense that if God commanded something, he wanted to do it. And
That's where she is.
he had already determined in his mind to do it. So I would say for her, it would not be proper to tell her. This is not a clear and cut halacha.
Right.
Not that
She
our
holds
sages,
to the 10 Commandments very strictly.
but she
And
wants to do everything, right? If she
the,
would know about it.
the
It
t-
sounds, that's what
I
it
don't
sounds
know
like.
that she would want to do because she knows I don't want to use electricity. It's not something I've committed to
But,
yet. I'm practicing, but
yeah,
she will say I'll take care of it, and sometimes she'll use the stove.
okay.
And I have a
With
gas stove.
fire,
Yeah,
not electric, yeah.
right. But so she is holding to the 10 Commandments, not the 613.
But see, that could be because she doesn't think that that falls under the.
Yeah, it is why.
Yeah, well then I think that she's doing that by mistake, not that she's intending to not keep it. She just doesn't know. These are nuances that unfortunately most rabbis and most Jews don't think about, but it's legitimate. In Jewish law, there are distinctions between someone violating Shabbat, but they're not intending to. They're just uneducated. That's not if anyone, any Jew anywhere breaks Shabbat unintentionally, we don't then say they're not a Shabbat keeper. We don't then say they're not Shomer Shabbat. We say they made a mistake. They just didn't know. And it sounds to me like that's where your daughter is. She wants to, she just doesn't know. So I would not, if you had these situations, I don't think it's proper, but I cannot say that it's legally punishable.
I agree. I haven't asked her to do anything. She'll sometimes offer to do something for me, but I don't say yes or no.
So my personal understanding regarding electricity is that electricity itself is not using electricity itself on Shabbat. It does not violate any of the 4 commandments or any of the 39 malachot. But the majority of seriously observant Jews have accepted upon themselves to treat electricity as if it's prohibited, but it is not. I'm telling you that it is not a broad prohibition. You can use something that's not prohibited on Shabbat, and you can use it in a way that is prohibited. So you could use electricity on Shabbat to start an actual fire, and that would be prohibited. But electricity itself is not fire. And just because something makes light doesn't mean it is fire. If you want to continue to treat it as if it is, more power to you. But it might be helpful for her to know that there. Yeah, I don't know where she's at. Anyway, so we were talking about irrigating on Shabbat and doing things in an abnormal way.
Mhm.
You can tell someone to do that for you on Shabbat, not just because you feel like it, but if not doing so will cause serious loss or pain, or if you're able to do a mitzvah on Shabbat by doing it. But you should only say this in those cases to someone who is not at the place where they want to keep all of Torah. If they don't want to keep all of Torah, then you can say that to them. Only in those circumstances. Emmanuel,
It's weird.
Baruch haba. Yes, sir.
Morning, everybody.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
I don't know how to say good morning in Hebrew, otherwise I'll try.
Boker
Boker
tov.
tov.
Boker Tov.
Boker tov. Boker tov.
Boker.
There you go.
You were going to say something, Mr. Etan.
I was. So like in the case of Devorah's daughter, they think that they're doing everything that pleases Hashem.
They want to. It sounds like that's their intent.
Yeah. That I think that they're not like she's not gonna want to do certain things. To them, they don't they also don't want to displease the father, but they're just unaware that that's a thing.
Right.
Does it also matter like if they've had the discussion with their parent or sibling or whatever, and they say, well, I don't agree with that, then it's a different issue versus being ignorant of it. Like,
I'm not sure what you're saying. You're saying that if someone already tried to explain to them and they rejected it, then they're not simply ignorant. I don't know that I agree with that necessarily, because usually when people disagree on religious things, usually, at least in my experience, both parties are sincere, and it's not a matter of rebellion, but it's a matter of, let's say, individual A is objectively correct. Let's just assume A is objectively correct and educated, and individual B sincerely wants to do the right thing, and individual A tells them XYZ, and individual B says, I don't agree. I don't think that's the way it is. Individual B is not rebelling against God by
Right.
disagreeing and not listening to A, unless individual B understands that individual A is more qualified than them and educated, more educated. Then they might be more in violation, or more in rebellion. But oftentimes, and I think most of the time, when there's like debates on the internet or wherever, both people might be wanting to serve God sincerely, but individual B doesn't know individual A. Why should they think that individual A is any more an authority than themselves if they don't know them? They may have various reasons for not trusting them, but if it's a matter of trust or not understanding their authority in a certain topic or their expertise in a certain topic, if they don't recognize that, then how are they rebelling against God? Like, if I'm in the grocery store and some random person with a chipped tooth and messed up hair comes and tells me that it's a sin if I believed in Jesus, but I wasn't baptized in the name of Jesus, I was baptized in the name of the Trinity. Okay, that's probably the terrible example, but I'm giving an example that people can relate to who are from a Christian background. If some random person comes up and says that, and you're a Christian, you're not disregarding the sanctity of the New Testament just because you aren't convinced from this random stranger that your baptism is ineffective or invalid because you weren't baptized with a precise formula. Like, this is just let our Jewish viewers know there's a debate in Christianity whether when they're baptized, they should be baptized in the name of the Trinity, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or should they be baptized just in the name of Jesus? It's a debate. And some would, and I did this when I was a Christian, if they were baptized in one of these ways, but then they become convinced that it's not the proper way, then they will want to be baptized again. Some people would say they should be baptized again. But if some random stranger in the supermarket came up and told them, I heard you were baptized, but you weren't baptized in the name of the Father, then, the person that was approached will be like, well, who are you? Like, what's your name again? Even if that person has a more logical argument to make based on whatever, even if that's the case, that they have a more logical argument to make, but the person that was approached doesn't, they're viewing them as a complete stranger. They're not rebelling or devaluing their religion just because they're not listening to them. Same thing in Judaism or any other religion or in any political debate. We're not rebelling against reality just because we're not blindly trusting some person we don't know. I know I'm going on and on.
Let me throw a little more of a nuance in there. Let's say, Rabbi, you need to ask someone to do something. Or would you be more comfortable asking the, say, Catholic to do it versus the person who is Torah observant in a less knowledgeable way?
Of course.
So it's kind of on us. It's on us to discern that. Yeah.
Of course, that Catholic officially does not believe that the commandments of Torah should be kept.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church has had, and I don't know if it's still the case after Vatican II, but historically, the Catholic Church has had official policy to punish people who keep Torah, or Christians or Catholics who want to do something in Torah other than what the Catholic Church has approved. Of course, yeah, that's very formally a different sect.
So to ask your daughter to do something, it's kind of more on you to discern is she where she's at. You're the one who has to decide that more than her, where to realize that well, and she's trying to be Torah observant. I should probably not ask her
This
to
is
do
more
something.
an ethical type question.
Yeah.
Within
That's exactly
within-
what I've done too.
Within halacha, you're not considered liable or in violation of halacha to tell a non-Jew to do something, even if they want to be doing God's will. It's not until they've stood before a Beit Din that they are legally regarded as part of the people of Israel. That's why it's important to, if you want to keep Torah, to not only do it between yourself and God, but also to do it, to enter the covenant in front of representatives of the people of Israel. Why? Because it has practical ramifications as a people, as a nation. Why? Because God did not command the Torah to be kept as individuals. He commanded the Torah to be kept as a people, as one nation who is in the covenant. God did not make the covenant of Torah with one person. He made it with a nation. And so entering the covenant, while it is a matter of relationship between ourselves and God, it's also a matter of relationship with the people that he established. So it should be both. It may not be all at once, and I think more times than not, both do not occur at the same time. But it should be, that should be the goal. At some point, the person needs to come before representatives of the people of Israel to make it official. If they never plan to interact with the broader people of Israel, then maybe that's not a practical need, but it is the proper thing to do when possible, when feasible. And that is very practical, because if you accept Torah, then at some point, if you are able, you will be going to Jerusalem. That's one of the commandments. There is no Torah observance without interacting with other members of the people of Israel. Not in any realistic way. It's not a religion to be kept in a bubble, right? It is a nation. There is no separation between the faith of Israel and the people of Israel. They are together and inseparable. All right, yalla ba'u namshich. Let's continue. Let's go ahead and say this again. Devorah, would you like to say it one more time? The left and then the first of the points on the right.
Shamor, keeping the Sabbath. Shamor, Shabbat.
All right, and please, you or anybody else, summarize for us the difference between Shamor Shabbat and Shomer Shabbat. What is the difference?
Shamor is a command,
It's the command form of the word. That's right.
and Shomer is someone who does it.
Exactly. So Shomer Shabbat means one who keeps Shabbat, and Shamor Shabbat is the command form. Keep Shabbat, Shamor Shabbat. All right, go ahead and read the first of the points, and then we'll all take turns going down. And you can ignore this last little line on the second one.
This dimension centers on refraining from creative labor, melacha, as defined by the sages.
Violations require craftsmanship done in the normal, enduring way. Acts showing human mastery rather than happenstance or unprofessional, half-donkeyed work. Next point.
The sages also created fences to prevent one from nearing forbidden work.
Emmanuel?
The abstention cultivates a spiritual rest and testifies that God alone is the true craftsman of sovereign, permitting human work only during the 6 weekdays.
All right. So by our abstaining from craftsmanship on Shabbat, we are once a week declaring in a very, very visible way as a community, declaring to the world that there is only one who is inherently authorized and the inherent and ultimate craftsman of all things, and that is the Holy One, the Eternal. And any craftsmanship that we do is inferior to his. So this is one day that we testify that by our actions and our abstaining from craftsmanship. And that any craftsmanship that we do is only with his permission. In other words, it is a national proclamation to the world that God alone is king over all the earth, that the entire world is his, and anything we do is because of permission that he granted us. And he did not grant it to us on the seventh day. All right, Hodaya Tov Shalach, your turn.
The majority of the laws of Shabbat elaborate these principles.
Okay. So if you look up in the Mishneh Torah, the book called Hilchot Shabbat, the laws of Shabbat, the majority of it concerns this one of the four pillars of Shabbat. The four pillars of Shabbat, the majority of it is going to concern the laws regarding craftsmanship, what is permitted, what is not. But there are other pillars. So this is the second of the four. Now on to the third. Hodaya, would you like to read?
Kavod, honoring the Sabbath. Kavod Shabbat.
All right.
Shabbat is honored through preparation, cleaning, dressing well, and arranging the home to receive the day like a king.
All right. This, by the way, is regarded as rabbinic law, whereas the first two are explicit Torah commandments. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, remember, and by words, with words, remember the Sabbath day, and Shemor HaShabbat, to keep the Sabbath day, and we keep it by abstaining from forbidden craftsmanship. In contrast to those two Torah commandments, Kavod HaShabbat, the honoring of Shabbat, it is defined by rabbinic institutions. Go ahead and read that first one again, and then we'll get Emmanuel to read the next.
Shabbat is honored through preparation, cleaning, dressing well, and arranging the home to receive the day like a king.
All right, so that is before, things that should be done before Shabbat. And in that manner, we honor Shabbat by not waiting to the last minute and preparing the atmosphere. Emmanuel, b'chavod.
Public prayer, Torah reading from a scroll, and prophetic readings honor Sabbath by uniting the community in reverence and joy and affirming God's sole universal authority.
Okay, so all this is part of Kavod HaShabbat. Etan, Tor Shalcha.
Oneg, honoring the Sabbath.
That's a
Oneg,
mistake. It should say delighting. I apologize.
delighting. Yes, it should. Oneg, delighting or delight in the Shabbat.
Exactly. Oneg
Oneg,
Shabbat. Everybody say
Oneg
Oneg Shabbat. Oneg
Oneg
Shabbat.
Shabbat. Delight is expressed through rest, enjoyment, and festive meals according to one's means.
All right. The guidelines. Hodaya, would you like to read the next? And then we can get Devorah and so on.
Avoid large Friday meals to enter Shabbat with appetite.
All right. So it's not Friday night. Friday night is already considered Shabbat, or whoever may be joining us with less background. By Friday meals, they mean Friday meals before sundown, before you've accepted Shabbat. So Friday meals should be avoided. Large Friday meals should be avoided, especially in the afternoon, right? So it's not that you cannot eat. It's not that it's a sin to eat on Friday. It's not that you can't have a meal. But if you have a meal in the afternoon, try not to make it substantial so that when you have the meal in the evening, once you've accepted Shabbat, Shabbat has begun, then you'll be able to enjoy that meal with greater appetite. It'll be more pleasurable than if you had the Shabbat meal on a full stomach.
So I have a question about that. So I have young children, and during some times of the year, Shabbat starts quite late into the evening.
Yes.
So if I want to have a larger Shabbat dinner, should we accept Shabbat early before having the meal?
You can. Our sages did not give a specific amount of time that you can accept Shabbat before actual legal beginning of Shabbat, but they did state that you can do Kiddush before sunset. Before. I would recommend not doing it more than an hour before sunset. You want it to be at least as you see the day beginning to dim. If you certainly don't want it to, let's put it this way. I would say in the most liberal understanding, it should be closer to sunset than closer to midday. The day needs to be dimming, noticeably dimming already. And you want to do Kiddush, and you can do Kiddush before sunset. That's permitted. And it's universally recognized as permitted. So you can, and in fact, well, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, so you can do it earlier than sunset, and that is not regarded as violating that halacha of Oneg Shabbat because you've already sanctified Shabbat, and that is that is effectively being treated like your Shabbat meal. If the meal can be close enough to sunset that it merges into sunset, even better. But you don't have to wait till it's completely dark.
Thank you.
You bet. And that means you would be saying Chidush at the beginning of that meal, even though it's not yet technically Shabbat. And you would also say the Shabbat addition to Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. Yalla. We are on. All right, let's go ahead and we can repeat this. Devorah, would you like to repeat this? And then we'll get Emmanuel and start the cycle all over again.
Avoid large Friday meals to enter Shabbat with appetite.
Set the table for both the Friday night and Saturday night. Malave Malcha.
Melave Malka.
Melave
Melave
Malcha.
Malka. To be clear, the Rambam doesn't call it Melave Malka, but that is what it's popularly called, which is a little meal had after Havdalah. Etan Tor Shulcha.
Have 3 meals, night, morning, and afternoon. Even the poor are obligated.
And also, those who are able are obligated to host the poor and the widows and the orphans and immigrants unto the people of Israel. It states, including in the laws of Shabbat, if I recall correctly, but certainly in the words of our sages, that anyone who has a festive meal and does not invite these neglected ones is regarded as the one that is referred to in the words of the prophet who says, your feasts are like feces smeared before me. Feces, I think it even says smeared on your faces or something like that. So those are very strong words for having festive meals while neglecting people who are in need of compassion. It also says that I am not there, that the presence of God is not there, the Shekhinah is not there at such meals, unless those who are in need of compassion are invited. All right, Mihaba.
Nihaba'a. Include wine and 2 loaves, recalling the double manna portion.
Meat and wine, when possible, enhance Shabbat joy.
All right, so that's a big deal about the meat and the wine. If you know that there will be people who struggle with alcoholism, I strongly recommend not providing bottles of wine on the table, but you can have pre-poured cups and assigned seating to avoid making a show of it. and not have a wine bottle on the table if you know that someone struggles with alcoholism. And you can have the wine in the cups of those who are okay with drinking wine, and grape juice or something else in the cup of the other person. And meat also is a big thing, but of course it goes without saying that if somebody doesn't enjoy eating meat, you do not have to eat meat. And that would even be counterproductive, because the entire point of eating meat on Shabbat is that it's something that most people delight in. All right, so that's not intended for people who don't like meat. Same thing goes with bread, by the way. You don't have to eat bread. All right, finally.
Avoid fasting or public supplications except in emergencies.
This is actually a halacha. We are not permitted to fast on Shabbat or to have supplications. These are prayers. They're said both in private and in communal prayer. Prayers that recall depressing matters. So although it is a commandment to pray and to have concern for people, but we don't do this we don't do this in a personalized manner, meaning in our own words, on Shabbat, in order to avoid increasing things in our atmosphere that will take away from the delight and spirit of Shabbat. This is only if there are no emergencies. If there are emergencies, then of course, even as a community, we should cry out for the assistance of our people.
Question on that.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to be going through a medical procedure and several days before you have to limit your food, that's okay?
Absolutely, no question. Your health always comes first. Absolutely. Also, this is not widely known, but according to the son of Maimonides, Rabbeinu Avraham ben Harambam, he holds that the prohibition of fasting on Shabbat is akin to the halacha that you should eat meat. Okay, what is the connection? Well, the halacha that you should eat meat on Shabbat, it's the general halacha for the general population, not intended for people who do not enjoy meat. In the same vein, the prohibition of fasting on Shabbat is intended for the majority of people for whom fasting would not be a pleasure on Shabbat, right? And certainly that is the case for the majority of people. So we should not like cancel meals on Shabbat or whatever because I prefer to fast. No, that's forbidden. But on the individual level, if somebody is at such a level in their service of God and their devotion to God that they would actually have more pleasure on Shabbat by being engrossed in Torah study and song and prayer the entire day rather than eat, if that brings them joy more than eating, they don't have to eat. I think that's awesome. And the son of the Rambam talks about this, stating that would be, hypothetically, that would be the ideal state on Shabbat. But because God meets people where they're at, and so should we don't apply such lofty states of mind to the regular population. That's not just. That's like, is it great to read the Bible? Yeah, it's great to read the Bible. Okay, let's make a imposition on our local community that every day of the week, in order to be a member or a member of the board of the congregation, in order to be a member of the board, you have to read the entire Bible every day, and we're going to do it as a community. And if you don't, sorry. Yeah, reading the Bible, is it good? Of course. Wouldn't it be great if we could all read the Bible, the whole thing every day? Of course. But in practice, it's a whole other thing. That's not just, nor is that walking in the path of God to impose something like that on an entire community. It's ridiculous. God's ways are ways of pleasantness, and all his paths are peace. So for the one that could handle that, sure. But that is not for the regular folk. All right, so we've concluded the 4 pillars of keeping Shabbat. Let's try to name them. Any one of the 4, please name. If you can,
Remember?
and if you can remember the Hebrew for it, even better. It starts with a Z. Za.
Zakar?
Zachor.
Zah- Ah, Zahor, the command.
That is the imperative form. Zachor. So that is the command form of remember. Right? So that is the first. And how do we do that? With Havdalah, by declaring verbally the sanctity and distinction of Shabbat at the beginning. I'm sorry, that is
Kiddush.
Kiddush, which means sanctification, and with Havdalah at the end. And both of those refer to declaring the sanctity of Shabbat with words. All right, that is the first of the four pillars. What is the next?
Shomer, Shabbat,
So
Shomar,
Shomer, go ahead.
Shomor.
All right, and what is the difference? Because they're both Hebrew words. What's the difference?
Shomor is the command. Shomer is the individual who does
Right.
it.
That's right. That's right. And how do we shomer Shabbat? How do we be keepers of Shabbat?
That's when you refrain from doing creative work.
Correct. Correct. And these are defined, not left to just subjective speculation. They
By
are
the
defined.
sages.
That's
By the
right. And
sages.
that's right. And it's a commandment in the Torah to heed them. Why? Because the Torah isn't made to be kept in a vacuum in your closet. It is a commandment by God to a nation with penalties. And if there are penalties, it needs to be clearly defined. This is very clear in the Bible. Even though the Bible does not go into detail about it all, but the fact that there is a need that it be elaborated upon by the authorities in the people of Israel, the legal authorities, that is clearly needed according to the Bible itself. Because how are you going to have a death penalty if it's left every man to themselves? Okay, so if I think that listening to music on Shabbat is a violation of Shabbat, so now just any random person who listens to music, I should go out and kill? That's absurd. We'll be committing suicide. There has to be structure. It's just a reality. It's a practical necessity. So that's it. That is the second of the two. And these first two constitute the Torah commandments of keeping Shabbat. Now we have two more, which are rabbinic in nature. What are they? So far we have Zachor, remember, and Shamor, keep. Both of those are in the Ten Commandments explicitly. The next?
I remember Oneg. I don't know. I can't remember the other Oneg Shabbat.
Aned. So what does Aned mean?
It means
Does it mean a tasty little treat after Shabbat prayers?
no. Well, delight. I guess in a way it could be tasty,
Yes,
right?
in a way,
Sabbath.
but
Yeah.
not specifically. Colloquially, yes. So that
Yeah.
everybody know, in many English-speaking Jewish communities, they call the meal that they will have often at the synagogue immediately after Shabbat morning prayers. They'll call it the oneg, and that's because it is part of this pillar of Shabbat, oneg Shabbat. But it is not specifically and exclusively that. Any of the meals on Shabbat and other aspects of Shabbat are oneg Shabbat. Right? And so oneg means delight, delighting in Shabbat. And these two, we've only given one so far, but these two pillars of keeping Shabbat, which are rabbinic in origin, they are not post-biblical rabbinic laws. They are biblically mentioned, though rabbinic in origin. One moment. Oh, that's so much better. Pop quiz. Why did I not say a baracha if I picked up a new glass of water, having not said a blessing, a baracha? Why in my instance should I not say a baracha, a blessing, before I drink it?
So maybe you already said it before on a pitcher
So
of water.
assuming that I did not already take a sip.
Because of the emergency situation.
That is one reason, but there's another reason. Anytime you drink, not for purposes of thirst or enjoyment, you don't say the blessing. If you're just doing it for a mechanical purpose, like to swallow a pill or you felt something in your throat and you needed to get it down, you don't say the baracha. If you
good
just
to
want
know.
to, then I recommend saying it in your heart, but not out loud, because that can mislead people.
Okay.
Same thing with supplements. If you take a supplement, you don't say a blessing on the supplement. Perhaps if you get
So,
enjoyment out of it, like maybe a gummy supplement, which now they have, but regular traditional supplements, you don't say a baracha before the supplement. And for that reason, even if one of the ingredients of the supplement is not a kosher source, it's not a problem because you're not eating it as food. You're eating it as it's not as food, not for enjoyment. It's for health,
there.
right? The same thing, like if you get a metal implant in your bone because I don't know, something happened to your bones, you need a metal implant. It doesn't need to be kosher source. It doesn't have to, even if it's metal. Metal is not food, so it's just for health. It's a completely different thing. All right.
And
So we have Zachor, keep. We have Shamor. We have Zachor, remember. Shamor, keep. We have Oneg, which is delight. What is the final one?
Kavod.
Kavod Shabbat. And what does it mean? Kavod.
Honor.
All right.
Respect.
Yes, it means honor and respect. Kol hakavod. What does kol hakavod mean?
All the honor.
Kol hakavod. Good. And it's a way of saying in Hebrew, well done. Go ahead.
Good job.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. That's it. All right. So some examples of kavod Shabbat. Dressing nicely in a special way on Shabbat.
Cleaning.
Not talking about mundane things or things that would take away from the holy atmosphere of Shabbat. So
That's a good one.
avoiding political debates, not talking about work or your plans, or, planning things for work. If you talk about planning to do forbidden activities that are forbidden on Shabbat but permitted during the work week, if you talk about them on Shabbat, you're not violating one of the 39 prohibited activities, but you are violating kavod Shabbat, which is a rabbinic prohibition. And again, this rabbinic prohibition, though it is not an explicit command in the Torah, it is mentioned in the words of the prophets. Can anyone give an example of something that for most people, they consider it like a very, very, very fundamental part of Shabbat, and it is part of Shabbat, but it is not a Torah commandment, and many people confuse it as a Torah commandment. And for many people, especially of Messianic backgrounds, they will often consider it like the main part of Shabbat, and it's not even an explicit command in the Torah. What am I thinking of?
Gathering?
Say it again.
Gathering?
If you're
maybe
gathering is, depending on how, is one of the 39 malachot. Not
Okay.
explicit in the Torah, but it's in the Torah because it's a malacha. What
I
did you
think they
say?
blow shofar almost every gathering on the ones
Yes.
I went.
Yes. I love
Yeah.
that, by the way. I love that. It's awesome. I can't blame them. And there is a halacha to sound the shofar right before Shabbat begins, which almost nobody does anymore. In Israel, they do it electronically in many places. Outside of Israel, it's pretty much not done at all, but it is a halacha. And the halacha does not say, do this only in Israel. So we should be doing something like that. And the text says shofar, but that's at the beginning, like right before it begins. So I'm thinking of something that both the Messianic world and the traditional and Orthodox Jewish world both observe. Both,
Lighting candles?
hold on. Both do. Well, don't forget, lighting candles is part of it as well, and it's not explicitly commanded in the Torah. So it's not one of the 613. That is a good example. But I'm talking about a prohibition.
Oh, okay.
Prohibition that Messianics and Orthodox Jews have in common. And in both groups, it's considered like a big, big deal though in rabbinic literature and in the Bible, it is not a Torah commandment. It's often misunderstood as a Torah commandment. In the Messianic world, it's considered like the main aspect of keeping Shabbat, when it's not. I'm not saying they're wrong for abstaining, but it's not the main aspect of keeping Shabbat.
Buying and selling.
Yes! High five.
There you go.
High five.
Finally got,
Where does it say in the Torah that you can't buy and sell?
and not in
It's
Torah.
not, it's
There's
not there.
something in one of the prophets about not letting
Correct,
people in and
correct.
out.
And just because it's in the Bible or in the writings of the prophets doesn't mean it's in the, and it's not in the Torah. It's not a malacha. That's not craftsmanship. But if you buy and sell, you do increase the likelihood of people in the society engaging in craftsmanship, which is part of why we don't do it. But it is not a fundamental part of Shabbat. In fact, it's very likely, and it seems from that text, that the people of Israel were engaging in buying and selling, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they were breaking Shabbat.
Okay, so I have a
What?
question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is going to add in another layer of
Yeah.
driving. But
Okay.
let's say I live out in the country. There's a lot of dangerous, curvy roads around. I can't really go for a walk. Let's say I want to
hear you.
drive somewhere to a park and take a
Okay.
nice walk
Okay.
for the pleasure of being outdoors on a lengthy walk. But I have to buy a ticket to
Okay.
get in.
Ah, excellent. Well, you also bring up the question of driving as well. So there's
Yeah.
two things.
So I complicated it.
It's okay. It's okay. I will say though, driving aside, because that would be the more complicated issue and severe issue in the traditional Jewish world. Buying the ticket would be the less of the two issues. Buying the ticket would constitute a violation of rabbinic law, first and foremost, right? It's not, nobody in the Jewish world holds that that's a Torah violation among educated Jews in Orthodox Judaism. They do hold it's prohibited. It's a rabbinic prohibition. What did we say earlier about rabbinic prohibitions and keeping Shabbat? There
That
are
we can be
instances,
lenient
well, when in doubt, not just whenever we want, but when in
Right.
doubt,
when
you
in
can be
doubt. We can be
But we
lenient.
know we don't have a doubt that buying and selling is prohibited. We know it's prohibited. Buying and selling is prohibited by rabbinic law. But there may be instances that there's permission. Are there instances with regard to malacha? If there's instances that you're permitted to do a type of forbidden activity under certain conditions, but it's not the prohibited activity as the Torah prohibits it, that's normally prohibited by rabbinic law, but it's allowed under certain conditions. I'm giving you guys some hints. In what scenarios can you do something that's normally rabbinically prohibited regarding a malacha? And why is it permitted in certain instances? Generally prohibited, in certain exceptions permitted. What am I talking about? I'm going to bring it back to the ticket in a moment.
You referring to doing a mitzvah?
That's one of the conditions, but in what way would you be permitted to do something normally considered like a malacha?
Well,
Keyword like.
I think of, and maybe this is not the right example you're looking for, but I think of the person who's sick and hungry on Yom Kippur, and the rabbi who has to go do the service. This need is not being taken care of, and they go out, chop wood, build a fire, slaughter the animal, feed that person before they
That's
go
a
to.
life. No, this is a totally different thing because that's life or death. No question. No
Right.
question you can do that. We're not talking about life or death here. Right? There's no question you can do anything on Shabbat other than worshiping a statue, murdering someone, or forbidden intercourse. Anything else you can do on Shabbat to save a life. That's completely different. Excuse me. Okay, so it's called shinui. I didn't give you the Hebrew word earlier, but we did discuss it. Shinui means doing something in an abnormal way. So with regarding the forbidden categories of activity, the 39 malachot, they are forbidden from the Torah to do them. Only if you do it in the normal way that they're done. Right?
Mhm.
And okay, they're forbidden from the Torah if you do them in the normal way that they're done. They're still forbidden even if you do it in an abnormal way. They're still forbidden, but they're forbidden by the sages. They're forbidden from the Torah in an abnormal way, only in so much as they are forbidden by the sages, because the Torah says, heed the sages. But the sages permitted doing these forbidden activity on Shabbat if they're not done in the normal way. They permitted doing it in certain scenarios. What were those scenarios?
So they permitted this leniency that would normally not be acceptable or authorized per Torah.
Hold on. We have two things.
Yeah.
You have malacha. Malacha is the forbidden activities on Shabbat.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
Such
yeah.
as gardening. Hold on a second. Such as gardening, such as sowing, such as gathering things. Okay. But the Torah
Sifting.
prohibition, the explicit, you're considered violating the explicit Torah prohibition only if you do these things in the way that they're normally done. And typically that involves a permanent effect or an enduring effect, but only if you do it in the normal way that it's done. If you do it in a way that is abnormal, such as watering your plants on Shabbat, holding the hose under your chin, or such as lighting a fire by knocking over a candle that was already lit, knock it over and then it spreads a fire, right? But you did it with your elbow instead of, in a normal way. That is not considered prohibited from the Torah. Okay? Doesn't matter which of the 39. This is true for all 39. If you do it in an abnormal way, it is not a punishable violation of Torah. It is not considered part of the Torah prohibition. I want you guys to write that down in a piece of paper or on your phone. This is called doing it with a shinui. Shinui means with a difference, doing something changed from the abnormal way. Shinui means doing it in an abnormal way. Doing any of the 39 sort of activities, but you're doing it abnormally, is not what the Torah prohibited. We do say doing it abnormally is prohibited, but we do not say it's prohibited from the Torah. It's prohibited from the sages. Let's write that down. Doing prohibited activities on Shabbat with a shinui, with a abnormal aspect of doing it, is prohibited on Shabbat, but is prohibited by the sages, not by the Torah. Emmanuel, can you repeat for us what we just said?
Yes. Shinui is doing activities that are prohibited by the sages, not by the Torah, on Shabbat in an abnormal way. Or
It's when you do a
out of the
Torah prohibition, but you're doing it in an abnormal way. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And that is not considered a Torah prohibition. When the Torah says, don't light a fire, don't ignite a fire on Shabbat, it's talking about igniting it in a normal way. It's not talking about lighting a fire by striking a match, holding the match in your mouth. All right? The sages of Israel prohibited doing these activities, even if you do it abnormally. It's still prohibited. But if you do it abnormally, is it prohibited by the Torah or by the sages?
By
Question.
the sages.
Yes. Mr. Victor, if I know that the Torah prohibits planting a seed, that's a Torah prohibition. but I planted by making a hole in the dirt with my tongue and then drop the seed into the hole with my lips. Did I violate the Torah prohibition of gardening on Shabbat, or did I violate the rabbinic prohibition?
Rabbanan.
Yes. Yes.
Not a Torah item, but a rabbinic item.
Correct. Now,
Both forbidden. One has a backing of a death penalty.
yes, one is forbidden from the sages, one is forbidden from the Torah. They're the same sort of realm, but they are different. Okay. So doing something like a prohibited activity on Shabbat, if you do it abnormally, that prohibition is only rabbinic in origin. You all understand this, yes?
Mhm.
Now, the same ones who prohibited it, those are the sages. The same ones who prohibited it can also permit it in certain instances whenever they decide. If they decided you can do it only on your birthday, then it'd be permitted to do it on your birthday. They didn't do that, by the way. So there are instances where the sages of Israel permitted violating that general rabbinic prohibition. What are those instances? Or a mitzvah on Shabbat. If in order to do a mitzvah on Shabbat, it's necessary to break that rabbinic prohibition, you can break it. The same ones who prohibited it, permitted it. They permitted to do it if it's needed to do a mitzvah, a commandment. Right? Another instance is...
Are there mitzvah that do not reach the threshold of, in other words, you're reaching to say, well, I'm doing a mitzvah.
Let's avoid talking about that right now in order to get the main concept first.
Got it.
Okay. The other major category that permits doing a malacha in an abnormal way is if there's hardship, unless you do it. If you're suffering, or if you're going to incur severe financial loss, then you can do a malacha in an abnormal way on Shabbat. You're not violating the Torah, you're violating the rabbinic fence. And the same rabbis who created that fence can also give you permission to violate that fence in the instances that they said you can violate it. So if you're suffering, if someone else is suffering, if you're going to have massive financial loss, you can violate their fence in order to avoid that hardship on Shabbat. So in order to do a mitzvah, or in order to avoid hardship, it's permitted to violate that rabbinic prohibition. I think we all got it. We all got it? Hodaya, can you tell us in summary what we just said? We can't hear you. Okay. Devorah, can you tell us in summary what we just said?
A Torah command cannot be violated. A rabbinic command can be violated if it's done in an unusual way for the purpose of preventing hardship.
Or doing a mitzvah.
Or to do a mikvah.
Also the mikvah.
Not the mikvah. I didn't hear what you said very well.
Mitzvah, commandments.
Mitzvah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. And you can absolutely violate the Torah commandment itself if needed for saving a life.
For saving a life.
Right. But with regard to the rabbinic prohibitions on Shabbat, it doesn't have to be life or death issue in order to be allowed to violate it.
Is the life only for human life or animal life, plant life, just human life? Okay.
Only for human life. Yeah. Now back to your question about the ticket. Buying and selling is not even a matter of the malacha, right? It's not even a matter of violating prohibited activity from the Torah. It's not buying and selling is not a prohibited activity from the Torah on Shabbat. It's a rabbinic fence to distance us from even, leading others to perhaps violate the Torah. It's not permitted to buy and sell on Shabbat. But if there's a mitzvah that you can't do unless you buy and sell, and especially if you can't do it in advance. If you could do it in advance, then you should do it in advance, no question. But if you can't do it in advance, or you didn't intentionally not do it in advance, maybe you could have, but you didn't intentionally not do it, but something prevented you, and only now you can do it, then it may be that you could violate that rabbinic injunction in order to do the mitzvah, right? But we're talking about a optional mitzvah. It's not like circumcision on Shabbat or something like that. We're talking about going to a park as part of delight on Shabbat. Or maybe you want to have a Bible study in the park. Doesn't matter. In that case, if you had no way of doing it in advance, or you were prevented for some reason, I think that there's room to say you could do it. That's my opinion. I would also say, though, you should try to do it in an abnormal way. So ask your non-Jewish friend to use your card to give to the park ranger at the gate or whatever. And this is not even discussing the issue of driving. That's another issue. If your friend's not there, I mean, it's not literally money. It's just a card. So you're already doing it in an abnormal way, not like during the week. And it's not a malacha. We have to understand that. Buying and selling is not a malacha. It's not a prohibited activity from the Torah. That's basically it. And what is the general rule with regard to your doubts regarding rabbinic law? Should you be strict or lenient when in doubt?
Lenient when in doubt.
Should be lenient. So I'm going to leave it up to you whether or not you have a doubt, or your local unorthodox rabbi. Unorthodox rabbi who cares about Torah, right? If they don't care about Torah, I don't consider that a rabbi. That's not a rabbi, right? Real orthodoxy cares about halacha. Real orthodoxy, with a lowercase o, proper orthodoxy, cares about halacha and doesn't deny or ignore halacha just because it's not comfortable to the social environment that they're in. That's not real orthodoxy. Is flexible with limits, but it's flexible. It is not authoritarian. It's not Darkonian. Real orthodoxy is not hard-headed. It's not, there's an expression in Hebrew that I don't know how to say in English. It's not stubborn. It's not so hard-headed that it can't bend when it has all the reason to bend, especially for its own good. Real orthodox, not just inflexible, but it's not inflexible to its own demise. It will be flexible, but without uprooting itself. It's going to be flexible, but still rooted in the Torah and in the words of Hazal, but it will be flexible. If it's not flexible, it might call itself orthodox, but it ain't. It ain't.
Adaptable, perhaps.
Adaptable, yes. Adaptable while rooted, as opposed to some who say Judaism is adaptable to the times, but it flies off and leaves the Jewish people behind, still claiming to be Jewish while marching with those who want to murder Jews. That's not what we're talking about. There are people, I say that because there are people who call themselves Jews who are that way. But it's adaptable, like it says in the Torah. You should heed the judges in your generation, in those days, not stuck just with what was 2,000 years ago, but it should be able to hear counsel in every generation, because times change and God is the God of reason. So if you want to ask any other questions before we go on, any topic.
I'll mention this so you can come back to it though when it fits in better, and that is a lot of people live very remotely.
That's right.
Including
That's right.
myself. So the opportunity to be with the community is not frequent. And
I think
a lot of
that
things can't be done alone. So.
That's right. I think that is very relevant. So driving. Some people live remotely, but they are in driving distance. So is it better? This is the classic debate between Orthodox Judaism and unorthodox Judaism. And absurdly, for a lot of Orthodox Jews, driving is like the clincher that defines whether you're Orthodox or not. Where does it say that in the Torah? Where does it say that in the words of our sages? Who decided that? I'm sorry. Who died and made you the king of Israel? Really?
So my remote situation is that I can't drive to the park. It's over an hour away. It would cost me money. So I thought once this summer, after going to the synagogue that morning and using what gas money I had to get there, I thought, well, the park is nearby. Maybe I should go there. But I didn't because I
You didn't
didn't
have
think I
anywhere else
should.
to go. I guess you
I
were.
I had nowhere else to go to if I wanted to go back for the evening. So I thought, go to the park, buy a ticket, go in there. So I thought about doing that. I did not do it because I was not sure. So I just came home instead of staying for the evening. So I'm wondering, would it be
But
better in my
now,
situation?
now we learned, was that a question, driving aside, because we know that's another
Yeah,
question. You were driving anyway.
yeah,
Okay. So regarding the ticket, is that a question of rabbinic or Torah law?
it's rabbinic.
Regarding the purchase of the ticket, it's
Yeah,
rabbinic.
yeah.
And if you had any doubt regarding rabbinic law, what should you do until you know for sure? Be lenient.
Be lenient.
Should.
So
It's not
what?
that you can. You should be lenient until you know for sure.
So I
Just as you
could.
should be strict with Torah law, in the same way that it's not an option. Our sages didn't say you can be strict when you have a doubt regarding Torah law. You should be strict with Torah law when you have a doubt, and you should be lenient with rabbinic law when you're not sure.
So I could actually go there after the Shakarit and the Oneg.
If you're unsure about whether or not it's allowed, yes.
But
I'm
He's
not,
let
saying
me
don't
let me
ask.
add this. Let
I'm
me
not
add
gonna
this.
tell
What
you.
if I buy an annual pass one time on an
Much
over
better.
over
And
the internet?
as we already said, if you can do it in advance, that's what you should do.
So,
That's
but
what,
I can go there
of
and
course, if you got an annual pass, you're not purchasing it on Shabbat.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure it all out as we talk.
It's
So,
good. And that's what I want you to be doing that. I hope I don't sound like I'm talking down to you.
no.
I'm kind of asking questions, often rhetorical, because I want you to be able to figure out
Reason.
future questions in other situations using these principles. Using these principles, you can do it and feel more comfortable with yourself doing it. And always remember, even if we made a mistake, if it wasn't high-handed, you're not rebelling against God. If you're even concerned about this, you are expressing that you love God if you ask this
Yeah.
question,
The thing
even
is
if you made the mistake. Go
I
ahead.
can never move to the community because I am very low income
I hear
and the
you.
community is very high
It's
income.
ridiculous. That's a common problem.
So there's no way I can ever move there. And the only way I can be a part of the Jewish people is to drive.
Yes,
And
I hear
then I
you.
have to have somewhere to go in between this event and that
And not
event.
everybody's willing to give you a bedroom, you know?
No, they're not. I've never, only
Uh,
Martina is the only one who's
yes.
had me
Kol
stay
hakavod
over.
lahem, kol hakavod. Okay,
Martina's very sweet.
so now there are legitimate questions, and we cannot just erase Torah commandments. We cannot just erase halacha uh, and act like it's not there because we're in difficult situations. So
True.
don't think for a moment that we're saying you can just do whatever you want. So there are two legitimate questions in addition to the ticket, which are really more concerning than the ticket. That's the question of driving. Is that a Torah prohibition? Because many people assume that it is, without any exceptions. And traveling, right? These are both more of an issue than the ticket. With regard to driving, what's the issue?
I would be alone
Ignoring
every
fire.
Shabbat.
That is a
There's a
Ravine.
fire.
right?
Fire
So
in the roof.
we have an issue. Number one is psychological and connected to the entire Torah. If you're always alone on Shabbat, for most people, that increases the chance that eventually You're not going to only drive on Shabbat, or if you refuse to drive on Shabbat and you're just staying alone, for most people that means you're going to become very depressed. You may eventually become what's the word? Disgruntled. I was trying to think of another word, but you could become disgruntled, and eventually end up dropping everything. Not just that you're driving on Shabbat, which has a question about it, but you could end up dropping everything or returning to the Christian establishment or Islam or atheism. Not good. Not good. This is just reality. So that's regardless of whether driving is permitted in any way whatsoever. 2, someone mentioned lighting a fire by driving. And 3, I believe
Eruvim.
eruv, right? That is transferring articles from one domain to another. These are important questions. All of them are important. So I'll let you guys choose which one we want to tackle first. It's very important. I hope this is being recorded so we can
It
share
is.
this.
Yeah.
This would be, go ahead.
I think that's one of the reasons why they discourage doing business on Shabbat or buying or selling, because you are more than likely going to carry something from a
That
private
is one of the reasons.
domain to the public domain.
It's not
And
the only
that
reason, but it's one of them.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are in the same situation. I think even a lot of Jewish people here where I'm at too, I've seen a lot of them driving to synagogue because it's not.
Because reality is first and foremost what people deal with, regardless of what some Jewish scholar who never has to leave his block, who has the privilege of having a idealized Jewish community, doesn't want to deal with the reality that most Jews don't have that privilege. You know, that's the fact that some big rabbis never had to live with that reality doesn't change the reality. He can continue to just ignore it or judge them having never stood in their place, which itself is a violation of rabbinic instruction, because we're not supposed to judge someone in whose place we have not stood. We should at least try to sympathize and understand where they're coming from. Otherwise, we should keep our mouth shut. Who are we to comment on someone if we're not at least willing to put ourselves in their position and try to understand what would I do if I were in that position? If I can't do that simple mental exercise, then I should keep my mouth closed. All I'm doing is showing myself to be one who speaks from the opposite end. Let's put it that way. One who speaks from his opposite end. So which of the 3 are we going to discuss? We have transferring, right, from one domain to another. We have psychological state / spiritual welfare, and we have fire, igniting a fire, or the issue of driving itself, whatever
Distance.
issue. So which of these are we going to deal with first?
If we can do the fire one, that'll be interesting.
Okay.
At least for me.
Okay, so first and foremost, simple solution is assuming that that it's an issue of fire, which is a Torah prohibition. We're not allowed to ignite a fire. We can tackle it from so many positions. Is there no way to move from one place to another without igniting a fire? Or are there alternative ways without igniting a fire?
Not from where I
Bicycle,
live.
walking.
I hear you, Deb, but let's just say generally speaking,
Okay,
are there
generally.
other ways?
Yeah.
Okay, we have walking, of course. And there is an issue of distance, walking a certain distance on Shabbat, but that's another topic. Let's leave that aside. Other than walking, are there other ways?
There are electric cars today.
There are electric cars that don't use actual combustion at all. And yes, I know that the religious Jewish establishment considers that forbidden as well, of course. But even they, while forbidding it, do not consider it the same as literal combustion. Most of them do not, if they've looked into it. They might still say it's forbidden for different reasons. Some will even say it's forbidden. And I'm talking about in the Haredi black hat community. Some will even readily publicly admit that they consider it forbidden, but only forbidden because this is what we've taken upon ourselves. In that case, even if that's the case, that is forbidden because it's minhag Israel wadin hu. Even if so, even if it's forbidden because it's the custom of Israel, it's still not the same as actually igniting a fire. So if you have to choose, if you know somebody's going to do it one of these two ways, then it's better to do it with an electric vehicle. There's no question that that's not explicitly prohibited in the Torah. It's not. Okay, so electric car is one possible solution. What else?
Bicycle.
Bicycle, not even electric. Yes, there are plenty, it's the main opinion in the Orthodox world that you can't ride a bike on Shabbat. But you don't have to do much historical digging to find out that in Torah observant communities around the world, riding a bike on Shabbat was permitted. It wasn't until relatively recently that it became the norm that is considered absolutely forbidden. But even those who forbid riding a bike on Shabbat do not say it's explicitly a malacha. They say it's prohibited because it could lead to doing a malacha. It could lead to breaking Shabbat if the bike broke and you needed to fix the tire or something like that. But the bike itself and riding it is not a malacha in and of itself. So even if we want to say it's prohibited, but now we have a choice between lighting a fire and violating a rabbinic prohibition. It's not even a question. Which should you do if you have no choice? If you know someone's going to do one of the two, is it better that they ignite the fire or ride a bike? Rabbinic
Ride the
prohibition,
bike.
Torah prohibition. Which one? Ride the bike. And it's not even a rabbinic prohibition from the sages of the Talmud or of the prophets. It's a local prohibition of local rabbis. And tell me which local rabbi has universal authority over the entire people of Israel. And I'll tell you, you're a heretic. You're a heretic if you think that some localized rabbis have authority over the entire Jewish people. That's heresy. Okay, so riding a bike should be preferred over lighting a fire. And we have electric vehicle, we have riding a bike. There's still more options. Can you guys think of anything?
Someone
Is
else
public
driving.
transportation
Mhm.
out of the picture because they're already running. All you're doing is
Yeah.
just hopping on.
And I know if somebody's very rural, there's not public transportation, but there are people in cities who still are far from a Jewish community. Of course. And none of these things are we saying, none of these things are we saying you should do them from the outset in an ideal situation. We're talking about people who have no choice. We're not talking about the privileged rabbi sitting 50 feet from the synagogue in his house where he grew up. We're talking about real life, regular people. This is bidi avad, but bidi avad realities, after the fact realities, exist. And they exist for most Jews. Do we throw them under the bus because that's not what our privileged reality is? Of course not. That's a sin. To just ignore other Jews and let them go their way without guidance, because I can continue to live my privileged Orthodox life on my one block area of Torah universe from which I rule as king. No, that's a sin to think that way. That's na'avera gedola. Hashem yishmor.
This reminds me of the movie Driving Miss Daisy, where all the Jews had non-Jew drivers who would drive them to the shul.
Even in an ideal scenario where that wouldn't be the proper behavior, but we're not talking about the ideal world. That's not the reality. You're just in denial of reality if you won't recognize that not everybody can be a saint living in their borough park house 50 feet from the synagogue.
Right.
That's a denial of reality. And that denial of reality is in effect a denial of God himself, whose name essentially means the ultimate reality. You cannot
So
serve God while being in denial of reality. Yes, sir.
in those cases, let's say you have you pay for an Uber, let's say an example, hypothetical example, you pay for an Uber for a month in advance. Your fees are paid off.
Most rabbis
Uh,
don't even consider that possibility. You can
Yeah.
pay in advance. You don't even have to be paying on Shabbat. You can, even if you don't pay for the whole year, you could pay like 30 minutes before Shabbat and set the setting that they will be there on Shabbat. But you're doing it before Shabbat, the same way that we
Mhm.
light the candles before Shabbat. There's no prohibition of doing it before Shabbat. And then they're there.
It's
They are, you didn't tell them, you didn't even tell them to do it on Shabbat. You told them before Shabbat. There's no
yeah.
issue.
And would that I don't know, I'm trying to rationalize this. Is it because it says you or your servant, your son, your daughter?
The
In
prohibition
this
is
case,
telling them to do it on Shabbat.
yeah,
On Shabbat.
okay. But are they considered your servant at that point or
No.
not?
And
Because
also
they're
they aren't. They aren't your
okay.
servant.
Because
There
that's the
are
thing I
no
was trying to clarify. Like,
there's no such thing as non-Jewish servants. There's no such thing. There are
okay,
either Israelite Hebrew servants who are born Jews, or there are Avadim Kanaanim, and these are Canaanite servants. And here we don't mean genetically Canaanite, it's just a term to refer to a type of servant who are of non-Israelite origin, but they must be circumcised and immersed, having accepted the Torah before they can be a servant. There's no non-Jewish servant of Israel.
makes sense. Makes sense.
Well, yes, there are non-Jewish servants of Israel, but they are not non-Jewish. It's kind of complicated. They are members of the covenant, but they have accepted commandments, except for the time-bound commandments. So it's a status that most people don't know about. Suffice it to say, they are not regular non-Jews, and they are members of the covenant. So
Okay.
if you're talking about a regular non-Jew, no, that's not what the Ten Commandments are referring to.
All right, that's what I wanted just to clarify, because I think it's good to have that distinction, because most people see it, oh, someone is doing a service for me, therefore they're my servant, and
We
I
are
am
rabbinically
transgressing it.
prohibited.
Yeah.
We are rabbinically prohibited to tell a non-Jew to do a Torah prohibition on Shabbat. There's a rabbinic prohibition. It's not from the Ten Commandments. It's a rabbinic prohibition. You're not supposed to do it. But what's the exception? We've covered it 2 times already. There's an exception.
When in doubt.
It's
Just
so
kidding.
fun.
It's a mitzvah to assemble and to have a delight, right?
That is a mitzvah, absolutely. And you can violate the rabbinic prohibition on Shabbat, even of doing a malacha. But if it's a rabbinic fence around the malacha, doing it abnormally, if it is in order to do a mitzvah, you can do it. All the more so can you tell a non-Jew to do it? Obviously. Obviously. You're not going to have a night on the town. We're talking about going to the synagogue. That is a mitzvah. You didn't make it up. You didn't pull it out of thin air. That is from the words of our sages. The same ones who said, don't tell a non-Jew to do forbidden activities on Shabbat are the ones who said, congregate on Shabbat. And they are also the ones who said, if you need to violate our fences in order to do the commandments we've given you for Shabbat, you can do that. There's no problem. No problem. So do it. Maybe you can have a friend if there's no public transportation in your area. Maybe you can have a friend spend the night on Shabbat and have them take you. Maybe you can pay them back in some way afterwards. Or maybe they're interested in keeping Shabbat. But let's move even beyond that. Let's say that's not even a possibility, but usually it is. It might take some planning in advance, but usually it is a possibility. What else can we say? We don't have an electric car. We don't have a friend to take us. It's too far for a bike ride. What else? What else can we consider?
Stay home.
Well,
Hotel or motel, rent a room.
whoever started a car with a cigarette lighter or a match. Whoever started a car, and we're assuming it's a combustion engine, not electricity. Whoever started a car by piling wood inside of it. Is that how you start fires?
Not
For the
lately.
last 300 years.
Who starts fires? Who starts fires by turning? Our fires normally started by turning a key with your left hand if you're right-handed.
No.
No.
Well, for cars, I think it's an electric spark that begins that fire.
Well,
That begins
already
that
it's
combustion.
indirect. Already it's indirect. Now, if you're doing
Yeah.
the indirect action, which is called garama, by the way, which it depends on who you talk to, but in the Orthodox world, there is the understanding that a malacha, which is garama status, is already rabbinically prohibited, not prohibited from the Torah. That's when you do the malacha indirectly. Now, if I do the indirect malacha, if I cause it indirectly, and I'm doing it with a shinui in an abnormal way, what do we have? The first level, we have a rabbinic prohibition, but you need to do it for a mitzvah. Now we're also adding onto it, doing it with the shinui, and I wouldn't even say it's a safek on a safek, a doubt on a doubt, but let's just say that it is. When you have a doubt on a doubt with regard to possible violation of a Torah commandment, is a doubt on the doubt the same as having one doubt? Does 2 equal 1? When we're in doubt regarding violating a Torah prohibition, when in doubt, you should be lenient or strict.
And if it's a rabbinic law, and strict if it's a Torah law.
Say that again. Say it again.
It's strict if it's a Torah law,
Yes,
and lenient if it's a rabbinic law.
that's right. With regard to how many doubts, how many levels of doubt?
I don't know.
One level of
Okay.
doubt. If you have a doubt on top of a doubt, is that what that regards?
No.
Here we have a doubt on a doubt. It's a double layered doubt. In that regard, even when it concerns a Torah prohibition, lenient, you be lenient.
Makes sense.
In addition, with a pedal, you can push it with your big toe instead of your whole foot. You're doing everything with a shinui, and you're not doing it to go play at an amusement park. You're going to the synagogue. So I'm not saying that you should do this. I'm just saying that there is room to understand things in ways that people don't usually consider. Ways which still fall within the realm of classical Judaism. There are ways to do it which respect the full picture and don't just respect the privileged rabbi scholar who cannot see beyond the 4 corners of his Beit Midrash, who has no interaction with the real world and what people actually deal with. There are ways to respect halakha and still be in accordance with halakha that will allow you to maintain sanity. And let's say that none of these options work, but you will be headed down a path of depression and abandonment of the entire Torah, even if none of these things we've mentioned are legitimate. Is your sanity not legitimate? Is that not a legitimate concern? It can lead to suicide. And that's not hyperbole. Not hyperbole. Some people might just become secular. You know, if they stay in isolation, they just become secular. Some people feel such conviction that they would not become secular. They may kill themselves beforehand. I've been in that state. And that's, you know, to hear somebody say, oh, you're just exaggerating. Okay, if somebody's going to say that to you, it's time to say bye. Is it better that somebody be put on a path or encouraged onto a path that, considering how much conviction they have for serving God and keeping his commandments, is it better to encourage them on a path that could lead them to suicide? Or is it better to consider a possibility, even though the privileged establishment refuses to see it, and in doing so are in violation of God's commandments, by the way? That's a violation of God's commandments. That is not a Torah of life, that's a Torah of death. Are we commanded to live with them? Are we commanded to grasp the tree of life or to grasp the tree of death? Which one do we champion? I don't know about you guys, but Etz Haim hi lama haziqim ba. I hold on to the tree of life. You guys can keep your tree of death. Right? To live with shame when you're doing the best you can, is that the tree of life or a tree of death? Is that the will of God or the will of some misguided men? Should you feel shame for something beyond your control? Should you feel shame when you're doing your best? No. No, the time for shame is with regard to things that we can change and where we haven't been changing. We need to feel some shame to the point of repenting. But once you've repented, you know you're doing your best. Our sages said, do not call yourself wicked. If you're doing your best, if you're upholding the Shema, you love him with all your heart, with all your life and ability, to the best of your ability, not more, not beyond what is reasonable and feasible, you should not be feeling shame. If you feel shame, that itself is a violation of the words of our sages. Zichronam livracha, their memory be a blessing to all who will heed them, rather than heed the fools who speak in their name, sometimes a mockery of what Torah Judaism is. So I hope you guys have understood that Torah is feasible. There's more to speak on. We haven't covered everything. We still have the question of distance. We have the question of transferring. How do we deal with that? Because those are also related to driving. And hopefully, if you would like, we can continue this discussion next week, Be'ezrat Hashem, even if it's just a little segment, part of a, added on the end. We'll figure that out, but we will continue the discussion, and we'll also talk about how we do the evening and morning services of Shabbat. But until then, do you guys have any other questions? I'm open to another 10 minutes, and then maybe we can wrap it up.
I just wanted to ask something really quick.
Let's give preference to
to
Shabbat related questions first, and then if nobody speaks, we can talk about anything, and you can always write in the comments as well. So Shabbat related, excuse me. Hello.
Okay. Can I ask, I guess this one is Shabbat related because let's say, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So
I hear, but I do not see. We heard the voice, but we saw no image.
oh, I have no image.
Neither of male or female, but there was a voice.
Okay. No, so for Shabbat, we are commanded to eat and all that stuff. Dishes get dirty. Is it okay to? In my case, I rinse them and then I put them on the dishwasher.
Fine.
Not
Yeah,
running
it's
the
fine.
dishwasher.
There are people who
Just-
won't do it, but you can wash your dishes. Yes.
I mean, I won't wash them. I just load them out and put them there away so they're not piling up because I have
It's not a
young
problem.
kids,
Not a problem.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Why is your answer it's not a problem, but he might ask another rabbi who says absolutely not?
Because
What is the difference?
well, one, Shiv'im Panim La Torah, there are 70 faces to Torah. And the sages of Israel recognized that even with equally intelligent, assuming equally intelligent people and equally sincere and equally applying reason, can see things in different perspectives or apply things in different ways. So sometimes I don't think sometimes is the right term, more often than not, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And you have to choose which way will bring you to the goal of the bigger picture. And I think, unfortunately, that the majority of the Orthodox world has lost the perspective of the big picture. They don't see the big picture. And they also usually do not learn Torah in a holistic way. They could be experts on the various opinions of how the words of our sages apply to modern situations. They could be expert on various responsa literature of the last 100 years, but they're learning it in isolation, separate from the broader system of halacha, which gives you the guidelines from which you will know how to apply these principles regarding Shabbat to new situations. They don't learn the laws of Sanhedrin. The overwhelming majority of rabbis, even if they are far more expert than me on various opinions regarding keeping Shabbat that have been written down in the last 100 years, they almost never have spent any significant time learning the laws of Sanhedrin, how the legislative and judicial processes occur according to Torah, within the system of Torah. They have very little idea. It's a big problem. They don't. It's a mess, basically. They don't learn the Torah as a complete system, and as a result, people suffer. Also, there are certain segments of the Orthodox world. Unfortunately, they are the dominant segments in the Haredi world, the black hat world, that will readily admit that they eschew logic, reason, and that is antithetical to Torah. They don't study the Torah. I'm talking about the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. They almost never study the Torah in depth. It's almost all hypothetical readings of legalese, not the text of the Torah as it is, nor are they familiar with Tanakh, even less familiar with Tanakh. They might read the Torah portion, but they don't read it in depth. They really don't. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but even if they're reading the Torah, they don't usually read the entire Bible. So they're not getting the big picture. The sages of Israel assumed and they demanded that you first master the text of the Torah and then the Hebrew Bible, and only then move on to the Mishnah, and then you move on to the deliberations of Talmudic literature. But nowadays, in the yeshiva system, the exact opposite is usually done, and they almost never get to the point of mastering the text of the Torah and the Bible. Almost never get there. When not only is that supposed to be part of the educational system of the Jewish people, it's supposed to be the first for babies, for children. So that's the reason. It's a skewing of reason and an abandonment of some of the most basic guidelines of our sages as to how we're to learn Torah, the process in which we learn Torah. It's systematic, and we've abandoned that. Now it's like chaos. They'll take people who just a week ago were eating shrimp and cheeseburgers, and they'll throw them into a Talmud class on the 5 different ways that you can or cannot divorce a woman who lives in a different country. And they'll spend months on that. It's so messed up. That's the reason why. And then maybe that boy who was eating hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and shrimp, and is now a week later learning 100 different ways of being divorced, he will end up 4 years later becoming a rabbi at the local Jewish community synagogue in, I don't know, satellite town of New York, after having spent 2 or 3 years learning super detailed laws of Shabbat and kashrut and taharat mishpacha, family purity. So now he's a rabbi, and the average Joe can't differentiate between that person and somebody who studied in a holistic way in the proper methodology. That's the reason. That's the reason that is what it is. Any other questions? Maybe 2 more minutes. Any other questions? All right. In that case, yes, sir. Go ahead.
This one should be short, but when you said before about blessing, setting the blessing when you drink water.
Right.
If you said the blessing, you have a big jug of water or something, you start doing drinks here throughout the day. Do you need to say the blessing every time, or just because you said it once, it's already
If
good
you
to
had
go?
intention the first time and you did not abandon and lose that intention, theoretically, you could say the blessing in the morning and it cover for the entire day if you kept that jug with you. But that also is dependent on your location. If you move locations, then you have to say the blessing again, not just random locations, but like not just from one side of a room to another. But even if you had intention, held on to the intention of that blessing while drinking it, but then you move to another side of a tree, or you were inside and you walked outside, then you need to say the blessing again. And when in doubt, you either should not say it, or you can say it, but you should say it in your heart, or you can say it in other words, but not the formal blessing if you're in doubt.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to go ahead and close with our closing prayer. Excellent questions, you guys. Very practical. Please encourage any friends or whoever you think may benefit to join our classes. Leave your questions and comments below in the video, whether today or in a week from now. Hodaya, would you like to lead us in the final prayer? You can read the Hebrew and translate.
Modeh ani lefanecha, Adonai Elohai. I am grateful before you, O Eternal, the powerful authority over me. Shesamta helki miyoshve beth hamidrash, that you have placed my portion among those who dwell in the house of study. Walo samta helki miyoshve koronoth, and that you have not placed my portion among those who dwell on corners. She'ani mashkim wahem mashkimim. I get up early and they get up early. Ani mashkim lidvar liv'er ledivre Torah. I get up early unto matters of Torah. Wahem mashkimim lidvarim batalim, and they get up to empty matters. Ani omel wahem omalim. I work hard and they work hard. Ani omel unkabel sahar. I work hard and receive reward. Wahem omalim wa'en makabalim sahar. They work hard and do not receive reward. Ani ros wahem rosim. I run and they run. Ani ros l'haye ha'olam haba. I run unto the life to come. Wahem rotzim liv'er shahath. And they run unto a pit of destruction.
Closing prayer from our hearts for this week. Ribono shel olam, O master of all the world. Imbue us with your character to be examples of your goodness in the world. Let us not lose sight of the big picture. Let us not miss the forest for the trees. Let us not sacrifice the forest because of the opinions or comfort or obliviousness of a single tree in your people. Grant us the confidence in your word and in the words of your sages whom you've blessed us with. Grant us confidence in their words to speak the truth even under pressure, to hold firmly in truth and represent your word accurately, even when we're called heretics or ignoramuses, but let us be a light that gives greatness and honor to your name. Let us speak for those who can't speak. Let's walk for those who have no feet. Let's be fathers to the fatherless and mothers to the motherless, and always be compassionate toward those whom we don't understand, being ears to listen to each other and to consider opinions which perhaps we have never heard, or perhaps we even thought were in error. Grant us the knowledge of your Torah, the fortitude and the passion to delve into it sufficiently, to rightly divide between what is permitted and what is forbidden, and to know when to be lenient and when to be strict. For the sake of your name and for the sake of your people, we pray. For the good of all humanity. When Omar and everyone said, Amen.
Shabbat
Amen.
tov.
Shavuot Tov.
Sure, it's all.
Sarah Al-Hai.